There's about 10 minutes per presentation, followed by about 10 minutes of Q&A. And first up, we have city's engineering project manager, Vicki Grover, and Parametrics AICP senior planner, Daniel Harris, to present item 1, transportation element update to the comprehensive plan survey results.
Sorry. Oh, we didn't know.
Yeah, look, you can take this one right here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep. You know, you take this. Oh, here. Are you sure? Yeah. Okay, here it is.
Grab a chair, the music's gonna stop.
I don't have a cake, so I hope you brought one, Michael.
If it stops and you don't have a chair, you get to go home. Yeah.
You guys, can we tell who's been here the longest on council? All right. Whenever you're ready. Hello.
City Council, call everyone.
Okay, and let me check really quick. Uh-oh.
So good evening, City Council. So tonight, we're gonna talk to you guys briefly about the results of the first online public survey we did for the transportation element of the comp plan, and for the active transportation plan update. So we'll give you a brief, less than 10-minute survey, and then we will open it up for questions and answers. And let me introduce Dan with Parametrics. He is assisting us in development of both of our plans. And Mike, you're on.
Almost.
Mike is getting the PowerPoint up for us. Hopefully everyone had a chance to look. I think it's been posted. I think I looked, it's probably about the second to the last week of April. It's been posted on the city website. Recently, well, shortly, about a week after that, I added an additional document that was provided by the public outreach firm that did the survey and analysis to maybe kind of help people understand a little bit. So I hope people have reviewed that and that was beneficial as well.
Did you let us know that it was up on the website?
Yeah, remember?
It was actually at a study session.
We were standing out front.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a little bit, you guys are probably aware of this, there's a little bit of a review process things go through before they're allowed to get posted. And so I let you guys know during that process.
So I think we can start with the second slide. Yeah, so this public engagement process is part of updates to 2 transportation planning documents, the transportation element of the comprehensive plan, which was last updated in 2016, and the active transportation plan, which was formerly the non-motorized transportation plan, and that was adopted in 2007. And those 2 plans are pretty closely interrelated. So updates to both of those documents are being coordinated with one another. And we have a shared engagement process for both of them. So this survey was intended to inform updates to both of them. And next slide, Mike. Yeah. The goal of the public survey was to understand the community's transportation needs and priorities, help identify potential improvements. The questions of the survey had 3 primary focus areas: the perceptions of transportation services and barriers to accessing different modes of travel in Bremerton, was to help our team understand what the existing community transportation needs are, and where there are current issues in the transportation system for our analysis, and the opportunities to inform different to improve different modes of travel in Bremerton. Will help inform our consideration of different capital projects that'll be brought into the active transportation plan and the transportation hub. And next. Thanks. So I won't spend too much time on recruitment here, but one of the primary methods we used to recruit our respondents was a mailer that you can see on the right side of the screen. It's a postcard that was sent out to 5,000 households with Bremerton addresses. And as an incentive for participation, there was a $100 gift card to a business of their choice for taking the survey. And next slide, please. Oh, sure.
Can you go back there?
Yeah.
What's in your packet too?
And while we're on break, Mike, I don't see Christine online with us. She's not online with us, is she? I saw city.council tried to promote panelists, but didn't work.
Okay.
I don't know if that's her or not.
So it says that you didn't do the survey, that PRR, an independent firm?
Yeah, PR is part of the team working on the transportation element and the active transportation plan. They're leading the engagement piece of it.
On one survey. Okay.
And are there any other questions related to camping or recruitment that
Yes.
we'll go over now? Okay.
Well, okay, correct. Well, I was going to say, I would love to get through the presentation because I only have about 10 minutes. Are you able to save your questions? Is that all right? So kind of status quo. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Next slide.
Okay, yeah. Sure. So just a little more on recruitment. The city also promoted the survey through different city channels, including the city website, social media posts, a listserv, an online open house. And the city also partnered with a few different community-based organizations to get the word out about the survey. And I think we can move on to the next slide. A few questions about this. The survey was opened between January 19th and February 15th, and we got a total of 605 responses. We were pretty happy with the response rate, and we got some great feedback from the community. The most successful outreach tool we had, or recruitment tool we had, was the postcard. More than half of our responses came through the postcard, and a little over a quarter of responses came through the Bremerton website. And next slide, yeah. So the final survey included 24 questions, some of which were reviewed by council in the review process. So on those were incorporated into the final survey questions as they were refined by the project team. The key survey topics listed on the bottom of the screen are consistent with the survey goals that we went over a few slides prior. So I don't think we need to go over those in too much. We can move on to that. Yeah, perfect. So 86% of respondents to the survey lived in Bremerton, and 79% travel in Bremerton 4 more days a week. So most days of the week they're traveling within the city.
2 or in Bremerton?
2 or within, yeah. The numbers shown here note the reasons for travel and modes of travel that respondents gave in the survey. And I'll just note that 68% of people drive, 38% of people walk, and 34% of people use ferries who responded to the survey. And move on. Yeah, thank you. Respondents were also asked to identify the barriers they encountered using each of these modes, and you'll see that incomplete or no facilities was a big barrier pointed out by people walking, rolling, and biking. And dangerous or aggressive driver behavior was a concern pointed out by both people driving and by people biking. There was also a little difference in reasons barriers people found accessing the ferry or bus, with the ferry schedule being a barrier to accessing the ferry and bus travel times being a barrier to bus. Respondents were also asked to identify what would motivate them to use each mode more. I'll note a strong desire for more frequent ferry service and for adaptive, intelligent traffic signals to improve traffic operations. There was also strong support for additional or improved pedestrian and bike facilities that we saw in the survey. Respondents also had an opportunity to identify what modes they have no interest in using. And we saw pretty strong interest in a lot of different modes, but definitely less interest in van pooling and carpooling. There's more interest in using the ferry or bus, as well as walking and biking. And we see strong support among people who took the survey for a multimodal transportation. And lastly, when asked which improvements that were most important to respondents, people prioritized ferry and pedestrian improvements, but we also saw some strong desire for traffic improvements, bicycle improvements, and transit improvements on top of that. So this graphic is showing you how public input will be wrapped into the alternatives development process and how that'll translate into the two planning documents we're working on. So I'm going to focus on public input, which is the bubble on the top left of the slide. And the public survey, which we just went over, was only one of the methods that we're using to collect public engagement. There's also the virtual open house, sidewalk events, and council walks that will be brought into that. And the public input along with our technical analysis will help us analyze different transportation alternatives that'll be pulled into the transportation element and the active transportation plan. And I'll end with a quick summary of the work we've done and where we're going. So in the spring, we focused on engagement and issues identification. We're beginning to evaluate solutions now, and then we're working toward a draft plan, a draft active transportation plan, and a draft transportation element later this year. And I'll open it up for any questions.
Yeah, Jane, go right ahead.
Okay. I was asked by a constituent if they can get the raw data before you.
Yeah, so we have a
How do
summary
they get that?
report. I don't know if we have all the raw data, but we can see what PR has in terms of raw data that they can give to us.
Okay. And then I have a couple more questions.
Mhm.
What can the city of Bremerton do about ferry service? It seems like a lot of it. People think we can do something about the ferry. We can't make these big ferries.
Studies. The same thing as with that transit we have before, but I feel like the community have influence. Like I've shared these results with Ed Coviel with Kids Up Transit, just say, hey, by the way, I had some questions on transit. Would you be interested? He said he was. And so I hear what you're saying, Jane. But when we have to look at Bremerton as a whole with our regional growth centers and how PSRC asks us to look at things, we have to look at all transportation modes.
Okay, well, something I'm really concerned about is that you did one survey for both the transportation plan and the active transportation plan. So that the way that was done, it makes it look less important for people to walk or ride bikes or roll because you have the whole car thing in the same survey. So I don't feel the data can really be separated when you do one survey.
Well, we're trying to understand everyone's travel behavior, even people that are driving. So some of the issues that are pointed out by drivers are probably also problems for other modes that we can address in the transportation element, and then some of those might be addressed in the active transportation plan. If the issues are speeding and aggressive driving, then some of the improvements you might want in the active transportation plan can help with driver safety as well by bringing down speeds because of traffic calming.
And I thought we had some kind of specific sections that were related specifically to walk, specifically to biking. And so to be honest with you, I'm not really sure how we would do anything different if we were to do just a separate survey that focused on pedestrians and bicycle. It'd probably be some of maybe the same questions here. Just something to think about. I do
But
hear
it's
what
all
you're saying.
it's all mashed together with what drivers want. So there's a big difference about level of service and level of stress.
and we're doing
And vehicles don't feel level of stress.
we're doing
People
that
do.
analysis too with this update is the level of traffic stress for ped and bikes in order to try to capture that. I do understand what you were saying.
So the constituent who wants the raw data, who should they ask and how do they?
You can forward the question to Vicky and
Then
Will.
I'll pass it on to
Yeah.
Dan. Yeah, because I
And
don't.
we'll work with our survey team. There might be some concerns about anonymity of the data. I don't know exactly how they store their data. So
Bremerton Angela Public Records.
Okay.
Yeah, make a public records request. So
Okay.
not like draft documents, some documents aren't, we don't have to hand out like working documents, so they'll get that.
Yeah, he's not looking for working, he just wants the raw data. Okay, I'll tell him that's how to do it. Thank you. I'm sure other people have questions.
You can email.
You
me.
can count on.
Yes, please do. Thank
So-
you.
this council has affirmed and reaffirmed its commitment to diversity and inclusion and making certain that everything reflects all the diverse elements of Bremerton. So my concerns about the structure of this study are twofold. One is the lack of diversity in the community organizations. For example, NAACP 1134, it's not among the community-based organizations. West Sound Cycling Club, not among the community organizations. Miss Redonda was there, which I was very happy to see. So I think that sampling people, reaching out to give a survey to a wider variety of people who more accurately reflect the diversity of Bremerton. So, and then again, the distribution, I noticed that you sent it out to the mayor's email listserv, but each councilor has a district distribution list, and I was wondering why that was not used. And
There's a a method for people to get on those lists through the city website, and that is what I'm aware of, and that's the process we've used. I have to be honest, I didn't know that you guys have your own
yeah,
listserv, so
each of us
news to
or each
news to
district.
me.
Okay.
Just
Each district, and these are people who want to know what's happening in Bremerton, especially in their districts.
I think the mayor's.
I'm sorry, Michael.
I think the mayor's includes all of our, I think it's a master list. We say the mayor's list, but it's
Does it? Then
the
that's
city
great.
list.
Okay, is that okay? Great. Then scratch that. The other concern I had is really encapsulated in the question I asked during it. It's like are people driving to Bremerton? You're saying that 5,000 households chosen at random received a survey. Why were residents outside city limits included? How many of them were there relative to residents within city limits? In the city of over 45K people, only 321 responded to the survey. And that's a pretty good response rate. So why was such a comparatively small sample size chosen for this method of distribution? But really the key question here is like, why are we asking people who have refused to live in Bremerton and pay taxes in Bremerton to weigh in on what we should spend their tax money on?
Like, I'm gonna have Dan answer.
There you go.
So part of the reason for that is address randomization. So the
What?
they're collecting a random sample. So they pull the numbers out of a randomized pool of addresses. And the way that randomizer works is it uses the mailing address or it uses zip codes, but those don't really line up exactly
Yeah,
to
we
the
know
city
that.
of Bremerton. So we're going to capture people outside the city anyway, but we also thought that it would be helpful to understand what people who are maybe commuting into Bremerton or coming into Bremerton to visit family or run errands might need in terms of transportation. I think those people
don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I get it with the
Please go ahead.
gores.
That's pretty much the point. Was there a follow-up question?
Yeah. So I guess to go back to my question, and it's like I can understand that this is how you set it up, but I'm saying why? Like the only reason that I can see to set it up is similar to the surveys that were done for the Joint Compatibility Transportation Plan. There you go.
Company.
There you go.
Yeah, same company.
Okay.
yes.
In which they spent a lot of time talking to commuters and trying to serve the needs of commuters who don't pay property taxes here in Bremerton. So since there were objections to it during the JCPP, why was that same policy followed for the transportation element?
If you have a specific question on drawing the sample, we can send that to our research team. So we have PRR came up with the sampling methodology, and I know random sampling was part of that. I know they were targeting a sample of at least 500 people overall, and that was based on a
5,000, do you mean?
500 people who
Yeah, they
actually
wanted-
responded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That not just received manuals, yes, responded to the survey. So we wanted information from at least 500 people in our survey finding. So I think they may have some answers related to, the representativeness of the sample, what we needed for a statistically valid survey, and that's what guided a lot of the sampling methodology. But we did include addresses from outside Bremerton, outside the city limits of Bremerton.
Yeah.
That were Bremerton.
Yeah. So when you say Bremerton throughout here, and I'll wind up
Thank you.
pretty soon. When you say Bremerton here, it could mean Bremerton city limits, or it could just mean Bremerton, or it could mean people who feel like they live in Bremerton.
Yeah, so that
Got it.
86%
Thank you.
number is people who feel
I got
like
it.
they live in Bremerton. That's their perception of where they live.
Okay.
Self-report, so it's not 100%.
Okay.
Denise.
Yeah, how does it coincide with the county's plan? Did I read, can you just clarify, did I read in the newspaper or something that the county didn't include an active transportation update in their comp plan, or we don't know that? Next year, they're pushing it off to next year.
And I know that they're updating theirs at the same time. 'Cause
Okay.
I live in Kentucky. So I know.
Yeah, yeah,
But the idea for us is though to coordinate any
yeah,
projects that, and we have a lot of borders, right?
we
Where-
do.
Yeah, where it kind of cuts in. So that's part of our,
Okay.
will be part of our process.
Okay.
Um,
Is there like in our department, is there like a transportation czar or something? That
Yeah.
coordinates? I didn't mean it.
No, it's a lovely phrase. That's all. Sorry.
Yeah.
As transportations are.
Gunnar is the transportation czar
Yeah.
officially. Mayor.
Buttigieg.
Good title.
Oh, yeah, that's for the whole world.
Bring that.
No, just the US.
Okay, but we'll be coordinating all that. and
Absolutely.
everything. Okay. What was the percentage of people that were very wanted the priority of the adaptive signals? Is that 68?
I think, 67% of people said they would be interested in ITS, or intelligent traffic signals, as an opportunity to help traffic operations.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
guess kind of an overarching, it's intelligent transport systems. So
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah.
So adaptive is just a tool in that tool.
Sure, sure. And maybe as part of your work, we'll get that little infographic or elevator speech on what that is. So, and then I really appreciate the work, and I know that surveys have rationales and all of that.
Right.
And this council is very dedicated to making sure that we reach out into all parts of our community. I appreciate the steps that you took. And I also appreciated you including people are looking. And so if survey respondents said that ferries are X amount of importance, people are paying attention to that. And so I don't mind it all was included as part of transportation.
So if you're okay, I want to just mention, so part of PRR, because this is their niche, surveys and community outreach, they gave me a community-based organization engagement recommendation, and they gave me a list of CBO. And NAACP was on that list. I reached out to them and they did not respond. Just this is the list of the persons
Thanks, Vicky.
that I reached out
None of
to.
these people responded?
No, I got
Dang.
about 5 respondents back.
From BIPOC community?
Um,
I'm sorry, I have paper.
Yeah, you know, what, Denise has the
Yeah.
floor.
yeah.
And just, yeah, go right ahead. Denise, were you
I'm
summarize?
wrapping up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh.
appreciate it, Vicky. Thank you.
Jeff.
Let me echo my thanks to, for both of you for doing this and presenting it to us. It's so valuable to have the data. I think my question is just to check on the sampling biases of the study. So it's always impossible to get a perfect representation of the population. It looks like most of it's, I mean, pretty good. You know, slightly more women than men answered the survey. Probably a little underrepresented on BIPOC population, but I think the biggest skew when I look at it may be the household income. And I'm looking at the long form survey that's on the website, which is fantastic, lots of good data. So that one seems to have skewed much towards higher income households, just from a first glance. So just to make sure I got it right, the data presented is for the whole survey, but it looks like at the kind of bottom of pages when you went through it and noticed something that's skewed with certain one of those demographics, like respondents who identify as male are more likely to say this, higher income's more likely to say that. You just kind of noted it, right?
Yeah, there's a correlation. There was analysis done on the correlations between how people identified and then what responses they were giving. So those boxes on the bottom are noting those correlations in the data.
Okay. So when it's kind of like 67% said this, that's just straight from the survey. There's no normalization based on the population versus the respondents. Okay. Just checking. Perfect. That's it for me. Thank you. Really helpful.
Michael or Eric? Okay. Just real brief. So what is that, about 11% of your respondents, of your attempted respondents responded. I don't think I said that right, but you have 5,600. Response rate was about 11%.
Yeah, I think it's a
12.
little over 12,
Yeah.
but not all of those came through the postcard. Some of those came through the website.
Yeah.
It's sort of hard to know where they saw it first and what was like the first piece of information that gave them
Sure.
some sort of awareness.
And then I want to go back to what, just so we can just briefly acknowledge the attempts that you were talking about with Anna over there, the community-based organizations. You reached out to several, you got 5 replies. What's the conduit network?
Marlon.
Yeah, it's
Marwan.
Marwan.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
A great person. I met, we had coffee and very interesting, or I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
See, I actually kind of knew what the conduit network was. So I wanted to make sure that y'all did see there's a little bit of diversity happening in here. I mean, like, so I appreciate your work. It will be interesting. I think some of us are kind of data heads too, and we like to see the data, and we have a different, we like to see it. So thank you very much for your time. If nobody else has any other
I
questions,
just have one.
a quick comment.
Yeah.
Sure.
In the future, if you're really trying to just hit Bremerton residents, you can use the taxing district. So because we get taxed differently than places that call themselves Bremerton, I think we're tax district 10 or that in the county.
Like through kids up.
The assessors,
Yeah.
they have lists of everybody that are actually live in Bremerton.
Not just
Property owners.
Bremerton access.
Their property
Yeah,
owners.
Yeah, they're
address, yeah.
property owners within Bremerton,
Their property
the
owners.
city limits. But there's address, so you can, when you get something, it says resident 1145 17th Street. It doesn't say property owner 1145.
DCD has done a good job of sending out notifications to just residents within city limits, so it can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Harris, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, all right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Grover.
Ms. Grover.
All right, next up we have Lori Main with Westbrook, Maine, here to present item 2. So, and Denise, no, you'll be doing some later. Update on Bremerton tourism and lodging tax funding. So Lori Main, hi,
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity. How is everybody this afternoon? I wanted to share screen, but it's not giving me authorization. So I don't know, Christine, do you want to assist, or Mike, should I send?
I'm gonna make a co-host and see if I just made you the co-host. Do you have the screen sharing?
I got it.
All right.
And then you'll have to tell me if I'm sharing the right screen.
We good.
Try.
It's working.
It looks like the right presentation.
That's it.
Oh, isn't that exciting? I mean, it's always a good start. So I just wanted to really quickly, one of the goals I had professionally talking with you individually was to ask you the individual questions that I was asking all of the various stakeholders as we work through this LTAC award structure, potential transition, and I was guided to a study session. So that is the reason that I'm here. And I just want to give everyone in the room the opportunity to kind of let you know where we're at. We're anticipating that the final recommendations on this project will be coming sometime late July, but I felt it was important while we could gather you and you could put me on the agenda to get the opportunity just to kind of give you a sense of what the current project status is and help you understand where we've been and where we hope we are going. So when we initially established the RFP and validated what the scope of work was going to be, we broke it down into 3 phases. I'm mentioning 2 phases here. The third phase, of course, will be our recommendations and how we'll go about any process changes or actual approach changes in that third phase. But with respect to the current 2 phases, the first phase is basically highlighted in the green, where we feel we've gone through it, we have what we need. Secondly is in yellow, where we're still working on it and yet have the information we need, but we have a few things that we're still uncovering. So phase 1, under the review phase that says 70%, is we've reviewed the current LTAC process, feel very confident we understand what that process is. But more importantly, we're now going through and analyzing the impact of those LTAC awards and really trying to validate the true impact, I'll keep using that word, to the city of Bremerton through the LTAC dollars that have been awarded. We're working with Melinda and with Christine. Thank you. I know those two are probably tired of the calls and emails from me, but we're trying to define the cost structure of the city of Bremerton of the current process. I'm seeing a lot of what I would call workflow and work process that I want to make sure the city understands that there's a cost associated with us and that LTAC understands that if there's any sort of remuneration or any way that we can use software, we're going to try to investigate that for you as well. And then we've had the opportunity to meet with the various stakeholders that have been provided to me. I've had 14 conversations over the last 6 weeks, some great insights. I was able to provide an update last month with respect to some of the information that we have heard back, but the information has been wonderful. I can say with all glowing outcome, not a lot of glaring issues with respect to the process, just some insights. But a lot of insight and opinion on what they think should be happening with our LTAC dollars. Secondly was the research phase. We still have quite a bit of work to do here, but really just clarifying the present goals of the City of Bremerton's tourism initiatives, defining the infrastructure and the needs to meet those stated goals. I say we've clarified the goals of the City of Bremerton's. We understand currently that there's not necessarily any stated goals, but trying to define the infrastructure needs, support, in support of those stated goals, it's kind of a 50-50 simply because I think there are some goals, they just haven't been written out. We're trying to validate what those aspects might need to be and how viable they might be. And then both items noted in the yellow are the establishing any budget figures if there are some infrastructure goals or needs once we look at what it is that is happening with the LTAC dollars and that return on investment. And then just currently investigating comparative municipality processes, working with City of Vancouver and with the City of Issaquah at this present time, just trying to get some of their insight. And then, of course, taking the background that I professionally had working in a variety of marketplaces and participating in both LTAC and TPAs. So that's the current status. I wanted to speak to, when I go through this process for the city, I want to make sure what we're doing is speaking to that impact. That's one of the considerations that was brought forward in the RFP. What is the impact of these LTAC dollars? And the reason I wanted to meet with you individually and ask you those various 10, 11, 12 questions that I've asked all other stakeholders is, what do you anticipate that the impact of the LTAC dollars need to be? And I wanted to give that time because, I can sit here and make the assumptions, but I really want this body, and that's what I've been, guided toward, is understanding your body as a city council. But I want to be sure that we're hearing your voice and your intentions of what you anticipate the LTAC dollar impact should be, and make certain that we're looking to your guiding principles and your guiding Polaris of what it is that you anticipate we should be doing. So I wanted to use this time, because I know it's finite for all of you. You have so many things on your table, to really open it up for A, questions, and then B, insight to ensure that we're including your goals and your aspirations for what it is that is LTAC dollars and what they should be doing for the city of Bremerton, owned facilities and or events and or tourism marketing that you want to do to that city. So, for me, I want to open the floor and allow, if you will, Madam President, to let the conversation start and make sure I'm getting that input through this process that I was guided to by Mr. Jett to make sure that we're following the protocols.
Sure thing. No, and we have a section of Q&A afterwards anyway, which seems appropriate to have a discussion.
Awesome.
Denise, do you want to start us off on this? And she probably has heard from you a little bit, but
I would just like to set a little bit more context for this, because this project really came from interest with staff as well as LTAC. Certainly our city attorney's office was interested in the issue as it pertained to law, and is our current award structure legal or in the spirit of the law. And also from our finance department, this is an economic development program. What is the economic development impact of these investments? So that's how this emanated. And then, of course, we know that decisions are made here on council as far as priorities. And I think the most interesting word that she used were opinions. We all have opinions about this, personal opinions. Lori, I'm sure, has personal opinions. And I want to just make sure that we respect the purpose of this study, and not get too I don't want to dispel creativity, but under the guidelines of the statute, it's not like we're trying to change that. It's just, yeah.
And so we've highlighted some things in our conversations in the past, and I don't want to take over the conversation, but counselors, I know that we've come to consensus about certain things that we would like.
I forgot to make one point, and I know that City Attorney Fennell is here, but Brett Jetty has spoken pretty eloquently with me about non-economic impact criteria. Let me say that a different way, because I'm looking at faces.
Plain language.
Yeah. Do you remember the conversations we had about our sense of community and how these events can build our sense of community, get people out, all of that? Brett is saying that is not to be included in LTAC funding. If it's an economic development decision that then drives the community participation and engagement, but the bottom line is there's no measurement that he felt could justify trying to measure happiness or satisfaction with community, all those less tangible things than economic impact. We have to be careful with it, is what I took away.
So we're bound by
We're bound by law.
decision? Okay.
We're bound by the
RCW is
RCW is Eric.
All right, I don't mean to throw ice on this discussion, but I believe that since we're the decision makers, we should have all this data collected and then we opine in the end, much like the land use decisions or whatnot. I don't want to influence this process at this point. I certainly have my opinions and I voiced them before. But I would like Lori to collect the data from all these stakeholders, do our analysis.
I'm sorry, Denise.
No worries. Do her analysis and then come up with a report, and then the council then digs in after we get the report. That's my comfort level. So I think this is the wrong approach if we're going to go ahead and ask each individual council member's opinions on what the LTAC program should look like, or what are our concerns, or what are tourism goals, whatnot. I'm not comfortable with that.
So since it's legally required that 2 members of organizations who will receive funds from LTAC are on LTAC.
Or have-
All eligible to.
Yeah, right, I mean, they could choose not to apply a given year, I suppose. Sorry. One thing that I am very happy about, in this process is, and responding to your point, Eric, is that instead of just having hoteliers who represent the high end of Bremerton lodging, that Lori Main has been actively looking for mid-level, like where the science fair kids stay, Oyster Bay, Flagship, etc. And I think it would be great to have those voices for people who are not, for example, only going to a conference. Or so that was it.
Jane?
I have a question. I'm looking at the law right now, and it says the marketing and operations of special events and festivals designed to attract tourists.
From over
But-
50 miles. That's how they define tourist.
But it doesn't, it does,
It does define it in the,
In a whack.
it does.
It goes.
okay,
It
so
just says it
some,
right there.
okay, so Island Festival, that was something a lot of people in the community loved, and a lot of people from outside of the community, way far
They're
away.
getting LTAC funds.
So is that,
It was awarded.
so what I'm asking, there's like other semi-cultural event, like an art show, where a lot of the artists are coming,
Mhm.
not necessarily staying in a hotel. I mean, is that allowable? I don't understand exactly what is allowable under the law for us to grant money to people. So I think until we have a better understanding of,
Brett seems to
Of-
understand it pretty well.
I think it's pretty cut and dried. And for whatever, I mean, I looked at this animal before I even came onto city council and had experience with it. It's the most emotional. We love our community events, and the criteria has never been really clear. It's varied from year to year, chair to chair, organization to organization. And I believe that from the inside of the administration, as well as from LTAC, there's a desire to really get focused around economic development with tourism and what works. And not to disagree with Lori Main, but I'm kind of with Eric. We have talked about this. Previous councils have talked about this. It's always, it has a lot of feeling with it. And this, the economic impact of this, or economic development, this is probably the most emotional.
but is there any data that says Blackberry Festival, we were at 90% occupancy?
Yeah.
At this festival, there was only 50% occupancy.
Maybe Lori,
If Lori's collecting that information,
how people are gathering now
That
is totally, talk about raw. We get into situations where you can't count on them. And most organizations will tell you that they're good guesstimates.
no, we can check with the hotels, is what I'm saying. Not with the,
All this discussion is, I
mean,
really want to
Can-
move forward.
Yeah,
This
can I-
discussion
Looked
is
at?
really
Can
been
I-
going on for years.
Can I move forward to Jeff really quick, for your question?
Sure, I think I'm with Eric on his comment. So Lori, thanks so much for digging into this. I think my only question is, are you meeting with every previous LTAC recipient going back a certain number of years?
Looking more at the numbers themselves, the actual reports that go through the JLARC. So I've obtained that information, trying to utilize my background and understanding, because to the earlier point, there is the capacity to validate what is the measurements we're going to use moving forward, so that Mr. Jetty can get that information and with clarity say, Group A did this event and this was the outcome and this was the growth year over year, versus Group B, well, they used an entirely different data set. Where did they get that information? So what we want to try to do is really establish what I would consider as generally acceptable accounting principles when it comes to direct and indirect results. Because as you look through these formats, some of this information is fabulous, but some of it's like, well, where did you get that? Where did you garner that information, et cetera? And from a professional perspective, been a hotelier my whole life. It's really critical to say, I would normally only use a 1.7, but some people are using a 3. And I'm like, well, where are you getting the 3? So even I'm kind of confused. So I think, back to answer your question very specifically, that's the hope out of this. We all agree, these are the numbers we're going to use. Agree or disagree that you think that's the right number? Unless you can have valid proof, because you come out with those receipts, there's not probably anything we can do. That's the hope we can come up with. The second approach is really understanding what the LTAC can, through a variety of ways, really know that it knows. And there might be some funding that the LTAC itself should be using, so we can, to your point, validate. Wow, look, this was an 80% year-on-year growth versus like, wait a minute, nothing happened. There was no gain here. So I think it will give us some capacity to use the data to make really good and informed decisions.
Okay, that helps clarify a bunch. Thanks. That makes sense. So you're not necessarily going to reach out to every LTAC recipient, but if you come across one you have questions on, like, they reported this and I don't quite understand, you might reach out for clarification.
Yeah, well, Melinda's done a great job of doing all those
Melinda
clarifications.
will.
So she did my job for me.
Okay.
But we do have that information.
Yeah. Awesome. I'll look forward to seeing the data.
And she didn't pay me to say that, by the way.
I think she literally signed your contract, so in a sense, she kind of did.
But she worked with she was my business partner on that one, so it's really okay.
Michael.
So I've served on LTAC. I've applied to LTAC. I've applied to county LTAC. I've applied to Bainbridge Islands LTAC. Bainbridge Islands LTAC, you cannot serve on it if you're going to apply that year. So your organization does have to step back. I'm not sure I agree with that. And it's really tough. In fact, Melinda and I just talked about this the other day. On Bainbridge Island, the recipients fill out the JLARC. And Melinda, thank you, keep doing it, fills it out for us. But it's really hard to capture that kind of stuff about what's, I mean, you can talk to a hotel and find out maybe they saw a bump and that they thought it was from the festival or things like that. But I also think there's other things that happen in the community that maybe I don't think is what you're talking about, but start bumping up against that. Why would somebody choose to have a conference in the city of Bremerton? Why would somebody choose to bring their touring show, their band or whatever to the city of Bremerton? Because of the maybe more well-rounded sort of community that we are. So, it's really hard to specifically say that something doesn't, that something, did somebody come to Bremerton and because the Turner Joy, or was that just one factor, and who gets credit? So if they go to the Turner Joy and then they go to the History Museum and they come to the theater, do we all get to claim that hotel? Like it's really, it's a what is it, like a sweater when you start pulling at the thread. It's really, and I think there's some vagueness in the RCWs and the wax, because they know that it's tricky. And I think that's why we have humans, passionate humans, informed humans from the hotel side and from the people that are boots on the ground doing this to help us make these decisions. So anyways, it's, and I will say that I sort of agree with, let's get some numbers. Maybe in the meantime, we can get city attorney's department to give us a little maybe clarification on, or maybe HVC or somebody has a, a little one sheet on that, but
Okay.
I think we've done them before, because of the one sheet,
Mhm.
on awards, at least I think for the committee.
Yeah, and Brett's come to the committee, and because I did really want us to have a come from, right? This is, state law. And, but I think, Michael, you're right. There's a lot of, ambiguity because of what it is.
Attorney Fennell has a comment or clarification. The only thing that I'm going to say really quick before I defer to you, Attorney Fennell, is there's such a rise in short-term rentals. We really do need to find a way to collect Airbnb and Verbo data as well, because we do collect taxes on that too. And so, Attorney Fennell.
Sure, thanks. I just wanted to, a little background. I know that Lori said her guidance was, and of course that came from my office about the best way to engage council individually on this issue that then gets put into report. We didn't want there to be something where it was like, well, council member this, and this agreed on this point. It would be only quorum. And so that's why we're doing it this way. I think there's also just an idea of, we work with consultants a lot, and we have an engaged council, and when you get it at the end, sometimes there is feedback that is like, well, if I'd known you were doing it this way, I would have had this comment or this feedback. And so I think it's, whatever level of engagement we're able to give Ms. Main is helpful to know that, one, she knows sort of the thoughts in the room a little bit, and also what she's doing and where she's at in this process that you've authorized, right? And so I just wanted to point that out. It's this way because I think it kind of had to be, because you work as a body, and when you work as a body, you do so in public. That's why we're here this way.
Thank you.
And I apologize if I seemed frustrated with process. It's been a long slog, people. It's been a long slog for the little fund that everybody feels so passionately about. And darn it.
And it sounds like there's some clarity that needs to be made. And so this is why we have a consultant.
Lori
So
Main is gonna give us.
we
that
need some objective criteria. It also sounds like we'd love a follow-up later on down the road about the LTAC laws, so we can defer to our legal team for that. Sounds like Brett might be being voluntold for this one. That's what happens when you don't show up to a meeting.
Well,
So,
our
no, kidding.
LTAC guy.
Yeah, he knew.
Yeah,
My office,
exactly.
is responsive to that.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. May. And we appreciate your presentation. And next up, yes, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye all.
All right. Next up, we have Melinda Monroe, Contracts Administrator, here to present item A3, update on the RFP process for the DEI position.
Thank you so much. Just a really brief recap. Just to remind you, we issued our first recruitment RFP for the DEI leadership position April 8th, and that closed May 6th. We had no responses. And so we came back to council on May 8th and proposed some alternatives. On May 10th, we issued another RFP, invited those who had asked questions in the first RFP if they would be interested and to respond. So there were 4 invited candidates for the second RFP, and that closed today at noon, and we had 3 responses. I'd have to be with that. And we should have an update for you in another week, if not sooner. Just looking at this right away. I will say, just usually they're all qualified candidates. Our first RFP, we issued 12. We had invited at least 12. Actually, I think it was like 14 we added. There was at least 12 on our initial list, and we added a few. So I'm glad to get these really high qualified responses. So we'll have more soon. Any questions I can answer on that?
Thank you. Jane.
Yeah, we've been getting quite a few emails about this. So when do you think you'll be able to announce who the qualified candidates are? And at what time frame do you think we'll be able to pick?
That should be a very quick process. So, as of tomorrow, I'll complete the vetting. And then, be working internally with Charlotte and our legal division to, share that information with all of you. And then we do have, qualifications within that RFP that we're going to follow. So we'll go through those items. If we need any follow-up interviews, that should not take longer than 2 weeks. I mean, that would probably be the max, the most time. I expect the contract to be, and we advertise that the work would begin in June. And that can go, we can complete that in 1 week. We can complete that in 2 weeks. That's the due process, but it would not take more than 2 weeks. So, and definitely the award will just happen right away. So we expect them to be starting work mid-June as advertised.
And me and Mike and the mayor can have an update on that as well.
Do you want to update now or
Right.
when?
Yeah, just so it's clear. This is a process that we've been doing the updates to council because the council wanted wanted them, right? Wanted the updates. It is not an RFP process required by our code. It's also not a council decision required by our code. This is one that the mayor can and staff can review the applicants that have come in and select the consultant to do the recruitment and get going. I mean, really, without having another study session to review it. And so we can move on this a lot faster. That being said, you're a part of the process. And so if us doing that is going to make you reject the candidates that are found or something like that, then I guess it would be good to know that. But this isn't one that's required by code to come back to council for approval. We can handle this internally over the next week or, however the mayor says it. And so he can speak to that, I think, a little bit as to what his ideas are.
I think it's more that community members want to know more. I don't think anybody in council, I doubt, I don't speak for everybody, that they want to slow the process down. But I think there's members of the community that want to be better informed about it.
You want to talk?
Yeah, I've reached out to members of the community. And so it'll be a small team put together to look at our preferred alternative. And basically it'll be with the reasons why we picked it. And then just to run it by. And from my conversation, I think everybody wants to see this start to get moving and not keep going through a very deliberate process, even though I think everybody appreciated that. I think now we're ready to get moving on it. And so when we update you, we'll also update the community.
Yep.
Yeah, and it'll be a small group. We're not going to do it again, an exhaustive outreach, try to hit every group. I'm working with NAACP. They'll put together a small group, just review it, and so they can see what we're bringing forward.
And so if the council, this is one of those kind of head nod things because it's not something that you need to make a decision on under our code. If there's just a general consensus that we can move forward with this, it can move forward. And what will happen at the next thing would be that the person would be selected, by the administration. They would be retained, and hopefully, and I think that what had been requested initially, I think at the first study session in March, was that person provides us council some feedback about potential inclusions in the job description based on the job market. This is a relatively new, discipline. It's not like our perks directors. Those positions have been around a long time. I think there were people on the council that are interested in getting a recruiter's feedback on what's out there and what to include. And so I think we could have that step completed and be there hopefully at the next update. We'll have to see, when we select the person if that meets with their timelines, but hopefully that's where we would be. It would, maybe save a month, basically.
So basically, you need kind of a head nod from council to move forward. You don't even need it, but you're asking, you're
What I'm
requesting
asking
it
is
as a
like,
courtesy, which is
courtesy
nice.
head nod, that you're not going to be upset that council was, that those that preferred alternative was not brought back to council for input prior to the mayor signing it. But this is something that serves absolutely within the mayor's purview.
Well, I appreciate the update in general to kind of know where we're at. So, counselors, it's okay to take a temperature? Just kind of, are we okay with, if anybody has concerns, go ahead and raise your hand to speak on them, but I just want to take a quick temperature. Do we move forward?
Moving forward.
I'm good with moving it forward. Yeah.
A lot's been said. It's been a long process.
Go ahead, Anna.
All right, so just addressing community concerns. The community concerns that I've been hearing about are due with the CR study and the comments made by community members and employees. That said, coming right back to the point, there's nothing we can do to influence this really. So I'm happy to just keep moving forward.
Fair point.
I think we've already influenced it. I think, I feel comfortable in my amount of influence already.
Jeff, how are you sitting on it?
No comment.
Okay. Jane? Okay, move forward. Head nod.
Okay. We'll continue to work on this expeditiously.
Continue.
And we will provide another update at the next study session, which I think at this point is going to be in 3 weeks.
On the 12th, June 12th.
June 12th. Taking notes, vigorous head nod, slight, stoic.
I think more than anything, thank you for the update. We like the updates. So thank you for that. Okay. So we're gonna move forward past that one, and we're gonna go to item. It's listed as B7, but I moved it up on the agenda. Hey, it's Melinda Monroe here to present.
Come back, little Sheba.
On Amendment 4 to Public Defense Services Agreement with La Crosse and Murphy PLLC. And so was this discussed, I guess this would be in public safety. Was this discussed in public safety at all?
It doesn't fall under it's
Yeah, you're right. Does it fall under any committee, or did it go to any committee? Okay, that's okay. I'm just asking ahead of time so we can flush that information out, but go right ahead, Ms. Monroe.
So I'm bringing before you Amendment 4, the Public Defense Services Agreement with La Crosse and Murphy. This includes both a contract adjustment for $158,000 and a budget adjustment for $100,000. And just to recap, we had brought this contract for amendment to you in 2023 when we awarded the OPD grant. And at that time, we were still struggling with hiring sufficient number of public defense attorneys within the contract firm. We received the OPD grant and updated the agreement to address changes that were issued by the Washington Supreme Court standards, but also to assist with the attraction of an additional attorney. That's remained a challenge. We know that public defense attorneys nationwide just been in very high demand, and it's been an issue nationwide. So we now have a possible second full-time public defense attorney and revamped this contract amendment with La Crosse and Murphy to discuss what they really need to retain those attorneys as quality attorneys. What this provides is 2 full-time attorneys. They're a half-time attorney, been really working 3/4 time, and they will be moving in the cost of their administrative services. That has traditionally, we've been able to afford that as funded through other sources, but it's still really served. She still really served the city. So that's what we feel is needed to bring this forward and to increase the number of attorneys which is going to take pressure in other areas. And so I'm just gonna that's right too, see me. I hope that, does anyone have any questions?
It'll speed things up at the court.
It will allow an increased caseload for La Crosse and Murphy.
I'm gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna pause for just a quick moment. Denise, what I had said, and I'm sorry if you missed it, it's as I had moved B7 up above B1. Yeah, because she's already sitting here and it's automatic. Okay, apologies for interrupting. Counselors, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Monroe, were you done with your presentation portion?
Yeah.
Okay. Counselors, Denise.
I think public safety had already reported, you know, it has been discussed. I think City Attorney General has consistently let us know what a challenge this is, will continue to be, and it allows us to increase caseloads. The city attorney has let us know that legislation may be coming that lowers that
Cap.
the cap, and so things may be getting worse before they get better.
And so, so right now, public defenders are allowed to take 400 cases a year. And this is very basic. And there's standards that have been adopted by the state bar that reduce that to somewhere between, I believe, 80 and 120. And those start being implemented a little over a year from now. And so that's the news on that. But otherwise, just to step back, I am not supposed to be involved in the like selection of the public defender, because that makes sense because there are opponents in court, but it's certainly appropriate for me to advise this council on the impact of not having public defenders in general. And so that's what we were talking about at the Public Safety Committee. And the court is the same as well. Judge Flood is also prohibited from really, I guess, weighing in on.
I was looking to see if she was here. Okay.
But I mean, and she can weigh in on the need and stuff like that, similar to like how we were talking in public safety, but it's the specific contracting is with the finance department, and it's the same way at the county. But if it makes sense and everyone you can understand it, if we are responsible for the justice system, and that includes defense, prosecution, and you know, in courts, and so if we don't have enough public defense case capacity with our public defense contractors, then we can't put additional cases into the system. And what that means is that you actually have to charge fewer cases. And so having more public defenders means that more people can have, you know, attorneys, and that means that, you know, they're not overworked and they're able to provide effective defense. And so, the Supreme Court is still looking at the ABA recommendation that also, you know, were adopted by the WSBA, but it's a process. But right now, this is a good thing for addressing that concern that we discussed in public safety.
Gary Hersey had, I believe I included this in my report. Gary reported that filings have gone down from 1,200 to 800 and some. And he attributes that, quite frankly, a lot to the lack of public defenders. So obviously prioritizing domestic violence cases and others, but that means there are a lot of cases that aren't being followed, because I just want to make sure we're aware of the significance of this problem, and I appreciate any solutions that staff can bring forward.
Just throw money at it.
Jeff.
Thank you. Just due diligence question. Not that we can necessarily get attorneys for cheaper, but is there any reconsideration of, or I guess we selected La Crosse and Murphy a number of years back, and any reconsideration of going out to look at other options, or have they just been great to work with and you're not going to find a lawyer for cheaper?
Well, I mean, I think we're always, you know, listening, and we haven't changed the contract term. We did extend it through 25. So that's our current contract term. That
He started in 2019.
That's right.
Okay.
But I think that certainly, with all the changes, it's one of those things where, I realize we just have to be very ready to react in this environment that we're in. There's been a lot of changes in law and standards, and I don't expect that to stop. It would be great if it did, but I don't think it's going to. So I think that, I have questions like, how could we have multiple? In the past, that's been something where we have been restricted from having multiple contract public defenders. But that's the question I have, and I'm researching. So, yeah, just things like that. Can we just be a little more flexible, and how can we be more flexible? They have been very flexible to work with, I would say, and just very hardworking and very experienced, very knowledgeable. So, as a firm, I'm happy with them. But I think flexibility is key. So I will say that we have not been able to subcontract. There are limits. So these are questions to explore, and we have been limited. But will we always be limited? Those are just things I'm exploring right now. How can we be more flexible in this?
So
Excellent. Okay.
go right ahead, Jeff.
Oh,
I feel like I just needed clarification, but I'll come back to it.
Only other question I had was and apologies if I missed it. So the extra 100,000, so that's covered by grant we got, or it's coming out of the general fund? Okay, I'm seeing general fund. Okay. Big chunk, but yeah. Okay.
Okay, this has a fiscal impact, basically. Doubling our costs from one attorney to two. And, well, it will pretty soon when the new standards come in. We'll have to hire more than two.
Yeah, those are gonna really, but probably more than.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is, my general understanding is you provide your own attorney as a defendant unless you cannot afford one, and then one will be provided to you. What is the process? Is it by default? You get a public defender assigned to you, or do you actually have to fill out a statement saying I'm indigent? Or what is the criteria?
Yeah, they do have to fill out a statement, and it does go through the court to review that statement. And then the court approves or denies whether or not that's a accurate application.
Can I see a copy of the application? I'd also like to see some statistics on how many people pick the public defender option versus pay for their own attorney. Any idea offhand? Is it 95%? 90%?
I'm afraid I can't answer that, but I can get
that'd be interesting, because this is something we're going to have to address as a council. So we might as well start collecting the data now. I don't have any conclusions. I need some more data. But for this, I don't think we have any.
Just to clarify, the reason that we can't do, as Jeff said, due diligence is because our contract is secure with this one company, and we can only expand the contract rather than seek an additional contract. But that's something that you want to research further in the future. Did I understand that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay.
I mean, that is actually, I believe, a standard that the Supreme Court and the WSBA have set, is one of my understanding. So whether or not we can have multiple prime public defenders.
And our current contract is until
to the Supreme Court standard.
the contract is current until 2025. So all we can do is expand the. Okay, cool, great. That's Attorney Fennell, when is this coming down the pipeline? How long do we have to brace for this? For the dam to break on? I don't know how else to think of it. I mean, it's a good thing for people in the system to have representation who need it. And so I don't want to diminish that point. And that's what, and that's a service that we're, but do you have a sense of when?
What I would say is, I know that MRSD, I think I sent a memorial out
Mhm.
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I don't have any additional information to share on it this time. Absolutely something that we're gonna be watching and reporting out to, with the Public Safety Committee. And so,
Thank you.
I
Okay.
will keep that committee advised and let the council know through
Thank
that
you.
committee what they see and how we can, prepare for them.
Let's see, I don't think I've heard from Jane or Michael on this. Do you want to, or Anna, did you speak on this as well? You already spoke. No, okay. The three of you, do you have any other points to make or questions about this item?
I don't have any additional questions.
Okay,
Just throw money at it.
just throw money ahead. Jeff, go right ahead.
Just making, and so we're tracking this budget cycle next year, so we're kind of, okay, we're gonna allocate.
Okay. Counselors, consent or general?
Consent.
Consent. Thank you, Ms. Monroe.
Sorry.
Okay. Back to the briefings on agenda bills. So next up, and I'm still calling them by the numbers that are listed on our agenda, just to keep you straight, we're at B1. And so we'll move to agenda bill briefings from Sarah Lynham with regarding the CDBG program administrator. I'm sorry, let me restate that because I said it completely backwards. Sarah Lynham, our CDBG program administrator, will present on the proposed public hearing and resolution to adopt the 2025 CDBG home policy plan. Okay. And this, and we don't have to make a decision on what to do with this. It's going to be automatically a public hearing. This is just a presentation on the public hearing.
Great. Thank you all. It's that time of year again. I'm back with the 2025 CDBG home policy plan. This document serves as the kicking off point for our competitive funding process for the upcoming year for both the community development block grant and home funds that we receive from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The document is updated annually and serves as our guiding principles on how we utilize the funds available to us and provides guidance to applicants on items such as eligibility, the funding allocation process, and information on any regulatory requirements and local policy decisions. The plan also details our funding priorities for both CDBG and home funds, which are laid out in our 5-year consolidated plan. And we just had a very minor change this year that I'll go over shortly. For City Council, this again is the start of our 2025 program year, and for organizations wishing to apply for CDBG and home. The document was released for a 15-day comment period and no comments were received. The proposed public hearing is scheduled for June 5th, where we will take further public comment. Our application will open at the middle of June, and they were reviewed in August by the Project Review Committee, who will recommend projects and submit those recommendations to City Council in a public hearing in November. And the approved recommendations are then submitted to HUD through an annual action plan. Funding priorities for both CDBG and home will remain the same from the previous year. For CDBG, that includes projects in the city which can demonstrate a low to moderate income benefit, either through clientele who meet that threshold or an area-wide benefit. Infrastructure and capital improvement projects, projects which improve and preserve affordable housing, and projects which expand economic opportunities for low to moderate income residents. And for our home funds, priorities include projects which increase affordable housing. All projects must meet one of those funding priorities, which I had mentioned earlier. They must be an eligible activity defined by HUD, and they must meet a national objective defined by Housing and Urban Development.
Really quick, what's a NOPA?
I apologize. Yes, that was, yeah, I put that in there. I realized, oh, I probably should have explained that. It's a notice of funding application. So we, Bremerton and Griffith County, this Friday will put out just a notice saying this is how much money we are estimating based off of last year's estimates. And for home funds, we just received our 2024 allocation numbers. Yeah, just a week ago. So they're, I think, still trying to put together an estimate for what our home allocation could possibly be. And we work off of estimates. And just a really simple update, last year we had implemented a pre-application process that was mandatory for all applicants. And while that got us a lot of great data sort of at the beginning of the process, from feedback we had from organizations and from staff, it just was a little too cumbersome. So we simplified it. And now, rather than making it mandatory for everybody, we're just asking that new applicants and all capital projects submit an applicant intent form. And that's just because there are so many regulatory requirements with capital projects. And that's just based on feedback we received last year. And then funding priorities, again, they're the same for 2025. This is year 5 of our 5-year consolidated plan. So I'll be back again next year to kind of talk through what funding priorities are going to be. It's our final year of our consolidated plan. And then just lastly, for council's reference and for our applicants, some important dates and deadlines coming up. Applicant intent forms are available on the city's website. They'll be available through June 7th. Our application will open June 18th, and the link will be posted both on the city and county sites. Applications are due on July 16th at noon, and during the month of August, projects will be reviewed and scored by the project review committee, and agency interviews and deliberations will take place the week of September 12th. And funding recommendations will be published for a 30-day comment period in September before going to city council in November. I'm here for questions.
Fantastic. Okay. So, counselors, well, Jeff, you're going to be on the committee this year. Do you want to start off with some questions? Or do you have any questions?
Don't think I have any. Got the dates blocked off. Sounds like pretty much no significant changes except for that pre-interview process from last time. So pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Okay. On.
Program.
Great. Consent? Okay.
Public hearing.
All right. Okay. Counselors, any other questions or any other clear? Yeah.
Point.
Yeah, Denise, go right ahead.
Budget on this, $500,000. We can take 20% of it for administration, which I'm sure helps with the staff position. LTAC is the same amount of money. Just saying.
We're going to be a little bit less than that.
Yeah, and yet a full-time position. So, yeah. Whoop, there it is. Okay.
Oh,
Denise for serving.
yeah. We're getting a little, thank you very much, Ms. Line, and we'll see you at the public hearing on the 12th.
LTAC is.
And we're set up to do it on the 5th, right? Not on the 12th, but on the 5th. Okay, we'll see you then. And counselors, I'd like to go through one more item and then take a break if that's all right. I'd like to go to B2 and then take a short break. Will that work for everybody? Oh, somebody's excited. Okay. So that means B2, Internal Services Manager Matt Donley-Cott, presenting on approving the purchase of Vector 2115i hump truck. Public Works, by chance, has this gone through your committee?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any questions or any further information that was requested or needed?
All I can say is we're making money buying this.
Okay. Mr. Donley-Cott, go right ahead.
Okay, I'm here to present the purchase of a new 2115i Vector truck. This Vector truck is within the approved 2024 budget and no additional funds are required. We will be utilizing the Washington State DES contract to make this purchase. The total purchase price is $704,566.98. The anticipated budget for this was $800,000, so we're coming in $100,000 under. This new Vector will be replacing our 2015 VacCon E-Vector truck, which has met the replacement criteria for cost to repair and hours. Over the life of this vehicle has cost us $91,000 in repairs. The engine hours are at approximately 6,600, which is roughly equates to 230,000 miles. Just a side note, presented yesterday, the equipment was in the shop 6 times. That's now up to 7. It's in the shop again today. So just want to point that out. We chose this replacement brand Vector as we have 2 others in our fleet and the durability has been great. The years of those Vectors are 2008 model and a 2000. Both of those combined, the repairs are about $20,000 less than this, and they're quite a bit older. So we met with a local dealer and demoed the model that we're interested in. Then we spec'd it out. We did add a few upgrades to it, which will increase functionality, safety, and ease of use. Those are size of water tanks, the hopper size, and then front hose controls. Just to note, there's 2 major repairs recently to this. The most recent was the transmission failed, so we replaced that. It was down for 2 weeks. We got it installed. It came back in 3 days. Transmission was faulty. They had to tow it off. It was gone for 2.5 more weeks. So, and then the hydraulic pump drive shaft, that's happened about 6 times. And when that goes, it takes the radiator, fan shroud, the fan blades. It's about $6,000 every time to repair that. So we've had issues with this model for a long time. So, but that's what I have, and I can answer any questions you might have.
All right, counselors, Jane, and then Anna, and then I'd like to make sure that we come back from our break at 6:40.
How long is this gonna take to get?
2 years minimum,
2 years?
From now?
probably. It's just how long it takes to get these built.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fire
Okay,
chassis.
I was gonna ask an amusing question, but I won't. I'm so happy that you had this. I think a simple cloud of cologne for the workers at the end of the day to step through.
Okay, well, let's go with just some
Consent.
smoke consent. Okay, friends, we're gonna take a break until 6:40. Thank you, Mr. Donleycott.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, I call the study session back to order. And you're ready to go. Hello, welcome, Forestry Manager Sean Walsh to present on the Public Works Agreement with SAW Enterprises LLC for 5,000 road, 2 bridge installations and associated road work. Jane, was there any information that you needed follow up on from this item?
No.
Okay, was it a general head nod on this one? Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. Thank you.
So
Please
good evening,
go right
council.
ahead. You're good.
So I don't know if you guys recall, I was here in February for a goods and service agreement to purchase bridges. So this is the second part of that project to get the public works agreement in place to do the work of installing the bridges and doing the road work. So a little bit of a refresher. So the 5,000 road is on the west side of the reservoir there, and that's our main access route to get to Facade Dam and the water utility lands. So the goal of this project is to improve the 5,000 road so that we can access larger vehicles, and it will also help with maintenance and upkeep of that road. The forestry division's in charge of upkeeping all the roads, so by having this contract, we can focus on other roads. So this project was bid, and we received 7 bids. And so the lowest responsible bid was from SAW Enterprises, and that was a total cost of $318,727.20. This was under the engineer's cost estimate, and this is all budgeted in the water fund CIP. So this work will begin once the contract is awarded. We do have a fish window associated with the bridge installations, but they can do the road work to get to those bridges before the fish window opens. And so the goal would be to complete the work by October of 2024. So any questions?
Jane, do you have any further questions or comments to start us off?
The only thing is the bids are all over the place.
Yeah.
So,
But
no, I mean, I'm glad that the low bidder came in under the engineer. So great. It's good news. Thank you.
yeah, and that's just so the challenge with forestry work is it's a lot different than your civil construction work. So we put this out to bid and make it clear to contractors that it is a forest road, and they're still interested, and they'll come out and be like, this is kind of something we're not used to. So they'll just throw a number at it to see if they could qualify.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Don't forget, what was the budget amount for this?
So the total project budget overall is 600,000. That's for everything. So the bridge purchase, the engineering work, and this work as well. So
Okay, so we're still looking at being within budget for the whole project.
it's going to be a little bit over. So it's going to be the whole project. If you include the bridge purchase, this work, and the engineering estimate, to be 640. But this we had another item in the CIP related to bridge inspections, and talking with the engineer, he made it clear, he's like, we're pretty up to date with those inspections, so we're going to allocate those funds to use for that and be good.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, counselors? Okay. Consent?
Consent.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Have a great day. Okay. And moving right along. Oh, we're going to see Mr. Riley for a couple items, right? So financial services director, Mike Riley, and the Kitsap Conference Center general manager, Tiffany Shank. Sorry about that. Shank is probably the correct way, so let's do it the correct way. And we are going to, so this is a contract with J-Mark AV for audiovisual updates at the Kitsap Conference Center. Did this go through committee? Okay, finance, head nod, or?
Yep, it was a great presentation and needed, and it's value added to what we can attract here.
Great. All right. That makes your presentation even easier. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, just to kind of recap, all the AV at the conference center is either not working or hardly working, both the first and third floors. So this initial project would be for the first floor. Probably into the third floor with the rolling TV. So it is our number one complaint, right? We send out meeting scopes to every single guest that comes to our building, and we get 100% on everything except AV every time. And so, yeah, we're spending hours and hours. I can't tell you how many days I've been there at 4 o'clock in the morning to make sure the AV is working properly. It's just time. It's been 20 years. Last year alone, we charged $24,000 in revenue for the use of our portable AV. So we will recoup this in about 10 years or less. Yeah.
All right, Counselor, yeah, Jane, go right ahead.
So it says this is just for the first floor. So how much is this project altogether going to cost us?
If we move forward, right now we have funding for the first floor. We'll have to look at our capital plan going forward. I think the third floor full build out was another about $100,000. We haven't committed to that yet. That was something we'll be bringing back to the council. We're trying to get the bulk of the facility built out in the first floor. There's some cross utilization with microphones, TVs that will roll up to the third floor that will help, and then we'll scope and compare what we really can do for the third floor in the next couple of years. This has been in the plan. We've been working on this since 2018. Funding for this was identified in 2019. COVID hit. We held the funding back. We kept rolling over. We came this year to LTAC to recommit for the $250,000 allocation for the next 5 years. Part of that presentation, part of that money, as it's been identified in your agenda bill, is for AV improvements after they provide the network. We've been working on this a long time. So same approach to the third floor. It would be a strategic approach. And again, getting the billings that number was good to see for what we charge for AV. I think that we have an opportunity to charge more. We have more options.
Definitely.
Right. And we can't even do simple thing like you guys are doing right now, right? We don't have that capability. And shame on us for being the nicest that even ship that, you know?
All right, I'm gonna go back to Michael here. Go right ahead.
I just wanted to mention something that you guys shared with us about, like, this is not even just normal wear and tear. Some of this, there's an electrical issue
Yeah.
that fried some of the central brains of what gets the sound throughout the area. So now they're lugging portable systems and things like that.
Little portable Mac speakers.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't even have enough of those.
Matt could probably speak to what they go down there with as well. Turn the things around, help out, and try to piece it together.
They did put in our new projector.
Yes, it did. So.
Yeah.
This is going to be great.
So awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'd be exciting into the 21st
Events
century.
are really impacted
Right.
by AV.
Right.
Yeah, all the conference items.
Now more than ever.
Ability to raise money.
So that raises a question for me. When Matt and Mr. Donnelly Cott and his staff have to go down to assist at the conference center, does the conference center's budget pay for it?
Yes, yeah. So Matt's the general fund facilities are reimbursed by the conference center budget when they're down there doing work.
Okay.
Same with, is it Puget Sound? Do we do stuff for the museum as well?
Yeah, same with the museum when they're down on that facility.
Yeah.
So depending on what they're working on.
So the average age of the equipment overall, is it as
About
old as
20
the
years.
conference center itself?
Well,
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to confirm.
No.
Yeah, so
20 years.
way past the time. Yeah, all right.
Tiny computers, no.
So that means in like 15 years we have to do this again?
I think
Only
there's a
to
conversation about that.
higher
Put that into our plan.
And you think about technology and how advances, yeah.
Anybody else have any other questions? Eric, do you have any other? Okay, cool. Consent?
I don't know. I think the community would really like to see consent. Kidding.
Yeah. Okay.
We have for a second. That's good.
Community can still
Yeah.
to it.
Yes.
That's true.
They will.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Oh,
Shanks.
yeah.
Yes, we appreciate you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're
Thanks for all you're doing.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks for everything.
All right, so next up, we have Director Riley.
I am back.
Yes, thank you very much,
It
Ms.
rhymes
Shanks.
with consent. Here we go.
Ordinance, let me go ahead and read the title here real quick. That's okay. Well, you're excited about it. We're all excited about it. This is the ordinance to amend VMC 3.02.010 entitled Budget Structure to Establish a Biennial Budget. Take it away, sir.
I have a quick PowerPoint to walk through final budget, the pros, what we'll be looking for going forward, and then a little bit of history. Launch then.
There it is.
Use that
Yeah, that's a good one. So if you hear the quote up there, budget is not just a collection of numbers, but an expression of values and aspirations. So I'll start off with, we've been talking about biennial budget for the last, I think, 8-9 months. We've presented this to the finance committee a couple times. We talked during the budget cycle. So I think you've all heard it. The advantages, that right there, strategic planning. What we've heard from council is, how do we get I don't want to say better document, how do we get a better budget out to the public? And the biennial process lets us be more holistic, project-centric, strategic in our planning, but to spend more time on the document that goes out. So we're not producing a book every year. We're producing a book every 2 years. That's really where the savings for staff, more time in that first year. The process of working budget doesn't change. We continually, there's multiple, you have to do mid-year check-in by September. So you'll have you'll adopt your this year, we'll be adopting 25, 26 if this gets passed. We will still have a mid-year amendment in June. We'll call it the mid-year still. We are required by law before the end of September to reconfirm that we've adopted. We will roll into that. And then that same next year, we'll have another mid-year in June, and then we'll be adopting the next biennial budget. Our proposal, I'll click through here. Our proposal would be to adopt 2 one-year budgets. Two ways to do this. One is adopt a 2-year true full authority to the departments that 2 years of spending is available to them right now. We're proposing 2 one-year budgets. So really controlling each year, knowing where we want to be, but they can start strategically looking at the years. So some notes here, legal allowances. We need to adopt by the end of June. So if not, we'd have to propose wait until 2026 to propose. Some of the things I just said, no sooner than September 1st, excuse me, not September 30th, would require that mid-biennial review and modification. This is where we bring in revenue updates, expenditure updates, that we kind of adopt. It's just a quick version to reset those numbers. Again, so you can revert back to an annual budget similar to the fashion of at the conclusion of a biennial. Slide. There's 38 cities that have implemented. Some of our neighbors, Bainbridge Island, City of Gig Harbor, Snoqualmie, Sumner, Tumwater, Fort Richard, and Paulsville are all on a biennial budget. I meet with these folks regularly with our close region. There's not a lot of negatives that they can give me to their biennial budget. They always laugh. We're going annually and say, "Oh, I feel bad for you doing that every year." So here we go. Us and Ian. So those are the 2 identified. I did steal this slide from somebody else that did a presentation recently for their biennial budget, and we were on there, so I left this on. Again, we talked about strategic planning, long-term financial planning. In finance, that's what we want to look at. We want to look at we look at a 6-year to 7-year forecast. We want to look at long-term public works projects are not done in 1 year. So looking at those at least in a 2-year, and then really in 2 cycles, some of the projects 2 to 4 years. It helps them kind of financially plan a little bit longer within the budget you're adopting. I think there's clarity to the council when we're looking at these things in a multi-year format instead of an annual budget where the project's 2-3 years. Improve efficiency and budget management. So like we said, the departments won't be spending all that time gathering the numbers. It's really putting the thought in the process of what we're doing. Provide better stability in financial operations. The longer we're forecasting out and with those mid-year checks, we can really look at some more long-range financial impacts with the economy and then make those midterm corrections. Works better in collaboration with long-range capital plans, which have been developed in 1 to 6 years. So when we're talking about the CIP, we're not just 1-year snapshots, we're looking now over 6 years. So allows more focus on the dollars. We can actually look at the dollars and not so much just getting the things into the budget and getting it passed. A lot of it, most of the money, it's non-discretionary. Most of that budget is put together, we're already spending it, but we can now really start to be strategically looking in the out year. Allows adequate time for solutions to be implemented and time saving after initial implementation in the 2nd year of the biennium. This year will take a little more of a lift. We've already been talking with departments what this is going to look like, really focusing on the 1st year, addressing things in the 2nd year, being strategic, talking about public works, start thinking about that. But really that 1st year, we'll really focus on, and as we get better at this, it'll get more and more fun. And that's talking with MRSC and some of our City of Redmond, some of the finished work there.
over time, it gets even better and better and better. So we're setting the city up for success in the long term. So, all right. This is available for you. I'm not going to go all the way through this. Just talks about the impacts, department impacts. So we're going from annual to biennial, year one, year two. Really, is putting all that work's going to be putting that book together, getting the process set up, and then the out year kind of getting away from that, but really getting into the numbers, getting into what's going on, making those adjustments, meeting with the departments, and looking at their plan. Next step is adoption of the ordinance that's included in your packet for the biennial budget. As I said, it's got to be adopted before the end of June. Let's see, and then budget process is already underway. We have put the schedules out. I believe those have been from the legislative staff. I'm pretty sure you've seen those. We'll be presenting those in our finance committee to walk through the schedule. We did a preliminary one, I think, last month or month before. We'll be meeting with the department heads, kind of working through like we did last year, to help assist with the budget, kind of pre-filling out some of the numbers. We do have a new budget analyst that's starting on Tuesday. Very excited to have her. Her is Lauren Ellington. So that's who you'll meet.
She comes from college.
She actually comes from the city of Fallsville. So
Are we trading?
Good
Okay.
steal.
Ours went to Olympic College.
In Paulsville?
No, for here, Bremerton.
Oh, okay, sorry.
State in Bremerton. And then Lauren comes from the city of Paulsville. Jennifer's there. She's a revenue budget manager. They have the same software we use.
Nice.
We work very closely with the city of Paulsville, and they adopted recently the DA binder. So a little smaller city, but excited to have her. I'll be introducing her here soon. So let's see.
What's a small basis? How do you work with someone on a small basis?
Let me find where you're at here, Steve.
There have been several staff changes and want to work with departments on a small basis to assist.
About limited.
Sure, limited,
We're
small.
It wasn't.
Good
Yeah.
question. Limited base, yeah, very. We're not going to dive in and do the budget form. We're going to work on a limited basis with them for a seamless process. There's been a lot of
Did you
changes.
steal this slide too?
Maybe.
Are you gonna, let's throw somebody in.
No, actually, I moved the use word small, but this is my slide. So
Is it catch?
yes, maybe. But a limited basis. We're not going to go in and do the budget form. Obviously, each department has the ability to develop their budget, and at the end, we see the number when it comes out. We compare, and we see how we balance it. All right.
Great. And then I neglected to check in with the finance chair, but we've been talking about it since I was a finance chair. And so, yeah, any
It's more about how we do it and if we should do it or when we
the
should do it,
process, yeah,
and how we get there.
on a small basis, it sounds like they're going to be getting there. Of course. And I don't know who had their hand up first, but Denise. Okay, go right ahead, Denise.
Have you estimated the percentage of resources that you might save over?
I have not. I think as we develop and go through it, we'll start to try to track and do a report on that.
I'd be interested in knowing that.
We're interested in that as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, for finance directly, I think it's pretty limited.
Okay.
The book obviously is that piece for us. The departments, that would be the greatest impact. To hear from them, how much time they're spending developing the budget, where they see in the off year, it's not as much. They're just having to refine and tweak. That'll be, we'll try to gather that data and be able to report back. You hear it, just anecdotally. I'm not seeing data provided by any city that she could show that to me, but I'd be interested.
Jane.
Is this going to be really flexible? Like we're doing a comp plan right now, and all of our projects on the TIP are going to be modified, and then they're going to be modified again next year because we're going with a new system. I just want to make sure it's going to be very, very flexible as far as
Great question.
street projects.
Great question. I believe with the multiple ability to check into the budget in our current mid-year, in the reset, in the next mid-year, in the new budget, I think you have more flexibility.
Okay.
I think we'll have clearer optics to be able to make those amendments. Like currently right now within our CIP that we have, we amend that CIP throughout the year. Yet it doesn't make it back to a budget process to really amend the CIP.
Right.
That's something that will happen through the budget. It needs to happen through the budget. So you'll see some clarity because I think a lot of times you'll see something like, well, that number's there, but this is still here. I thought you said that money's gone. Well, it is. We've moved it, but it hasn't changed it. So, yeah, I think it lets us be more flexible, more nimble. Especially doing the 1-year budgets too. It's a better way to track it. I think it's set up for success.
Okay.
Sorry, like you compared it like my hand must be subconsciously coming.
I'm just like simpatico. So I can see it. What I can see is the flicker, and then I'm like, Jeff's got a question. Yeah.
No, thanks so much, Mike. I think this is definitely the way to go. Again, due diligence. Going back to the MRC article, which is a nice summary on it, in the cities that have adopted it. And I did note there's 2 that went to a biennial budget and then reverted. Looks like Anacortes and Sunnyside.
Mm-hmm.
And the reasons were the 2 themes seem to be financial uncertainty or significantly changing costs year to year. And it was one of those was back in 2012, so that was, not too much. And then reading their ordinances, it also seems to be that those towns found that they were doing so many mid-cycle budget adjustments that it was just as much work as the annual budget. So I just wanted to point those out. But I think I think if we and whoever's in these seats in the future are diligent about that and not making the off-year budget adjustment be a full-year budget process, I mean, just going to be cognizant of. Otherwise, I think the pros way outweigh the cons. And I also do like another benefit they noted is because the state law requires it to be in a non-city election year, then that means so we'd be going through it now like no one's up for election, so it's much less political or demands. So I think it introduces some stability too. So someone coming fresh on the council would come into halfway through the cycle. So they would be able to kind of poke at the mid-year budget adjustments, but that does make them get a full year and a half under their belt before they dive into the 2-year budget. We're all looking forward to hearing from public any concerns, but seems like a way to go.
Anna.
Okay, thanks. So with the reduced workload, is there a way that this would improve public access to the budgeting process, perhaps moving in the direction of participatory budgeting?
That's a great question. I think council to try to lead that way. We talked about it last year to really get that public facing story budgeting, as you're saying. It's early in the year. All right, do you want to have any workshops? Do you want to have town halls? We're open to ideas. As I said, I don't believe that there's going to be a significant reduction in workload on the finance staff. Where it will free up is be able to improve the document that you see, improve the outreach that you see, get the budget and brief that we've talked about. Those are our goals. How you make that document more digestible. And then again, the direction of council, where we want to go on that, the feedback sessions from what the public want. Happy to participate in those. Just waiting next council's direction, council process direction.
Just a couple more questions. One is, yes, I can see how it's good for incoming councilors, but in a normal year, 2025 would be 4 people running for office at the same time that they are going through budget workshops. Like ballots would be dropping when the budget would be dropping. So I'm just bringing that up as a thing. If there's a way that we could perhaps have the budget earlier, that would be great. I'm just saying, here's the situation. And then, so I guess that's not really so much of a question as a.
No, I don't think so. I think it's a 25-26. So it's this year. Our budget workshop this year would be the first biennium.
Okay, for the 2025.
2025 and 2026 would be wrapped up together in this budget workshop. What I believe, just for clarification, you're proposing is 2 different 1 year for this process to start the process, and you're going to streamline the process as you get further into it. But we're going to do 2 separate year budgets, a 2025 and a 2026 this year.
Got it. Thank you. And then my final question is, you said in your presentation that there's a lot of expenditures that are non-discretionary. I've been asking about those for years. It would be really great to know which they are. Is there a way?
Can we highlight them in blue? Or
We can show some areas. Like I said, most of the budget is actually tied to salaries, and indirect contracts. So we can identify where there is.
Color
Yeah.
code.
Yeah, color
Come up
code.
with-
I thought that most of our budget went to public safety, actually.
It does.
Yeah, there we go.
Public work.
And public works.
On public works.
Well, it'd be great to know what is
So
not
slice the
discretionary.
pie and maybe it'll-
Punchy.
Yeah, and that's part of the conversation of how we develop the budget to get clear what's really where the money's going. I think we do a pretty good job, but we can always.
It's something that I think would be really valuable to us and to the public. You know, it's like, here's how little wiggle room.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
Okay, that was it. I yield to the majority here. Guys want to be on biennial budget? I'm in.
He's down with it. Eric's down with it, or he's.
You remember?
All right, I'm in favor of it. So consent or general business? I know this is it might be interesting to actually bring this one to the public, but what are you thinking, Jeff?
I can put it on the website. I will not be in person, but I will be remote next.
I mean, isn't one of our goals? I really appreciated what you said about participatory budgeting. I mean, okay, Michael and Jeff, Anna, speak up. I'm not gonna call on you.
I mean, we're doing all the exact same things that we do for the budget. We're just like, it's tweaking. It's still the same reviews. There's the same process. And it sounds like we can put a little more time in every time the full thing comes around. So I don't know. I was actually went to be honest with Jeff a little while ago. He said like, "Oh, we'll see what the people think" or something. I was like, "Oh, is this? I have to."
That's
Do we have to vote on it?
I've only heard people in favor of it.
Yeah.
Including some regular speakers that we have at council. I know are in favor of it. So,
And yet other regular speakers. I'm sorry, Jane, you had to
go on.
I'm just gonna call
The last
her
thing
and
I'll say
let's
is,
just briefly
aside from
figure this out.
what I might learn from somebody else, I'd be okay with this going on consent. It's housekeeping to me.
I think it's important that we have it in general because we might learn things and Mike might learn something from the public with their suggestions. And it is the biggest thing people worry about and ask about is the budget. So to let them come up and have their 3 minutes to give their thoughts on it.
And it does let us answer when it comes time for council members to speak. We can answer some questions and concerns that may come up.
Yep.
And they'll be there for the
Recognition.
Budget's important. It dictates our values and our.
And general business.
well, fair enough.
Mike,
I'm happy to be on general business. We'll be remote. One thing I'd ask.
Yeah.
That they say germane.
Yeah.
Final budget. My fear of doing general business, they're going to want to get in and start talking about what they want in budget. It's not the place. So I would hope talking about budget workshops.
Yeah.
And have that more of a general forum. When we get to those budget workshops, to invite them. I hope it just stays
This is
in
more
me.
about process.
It's really housekeeping, as Michael said, we're just changing our format. Happy to have, again, be the town halls and talk about what the priorities are and how we met before. I've done a town hall, talk about budget process, and I'm happy to do that. So,
I'd love to do that with you.
happy to come to your meeting and do that if that would get us back.
How do you really feel about
If
it?
not, I'm not.
I'm okay either way.
The first Thursday of August, which
I personally believe that the people.
I believe
that
also-
receive-
Okay, order. Order.
I think that the people that
Anna.
will speak
Sorry.
will be talking about what they want or don't want in the budget. I don't know that there are a lot of people out there that are going to provide testimony about moving to a biennial budget. So I don't want to overinflate the importance, right? And yet, I think the point you're making about will be additional times or earlier times for engagement. That's the important point, and that doesn't necessarily need it to be in general business.
but I think Jennifer does a pretty good job of keeping people germane to the
I think
conversation.
it doesn't take very much to get it on general. So Jane and I would like to have it on general. So I think
Okay.
that's where it's going to land. So but it needs to be passed before the end of June. So, I guess, do you want to, you would be on you said you'd be remote on June 5th. Okay. Is there's nobody else that can sub for you, right? But
No,
if you're not live, I
I'd
mean,
rather present it.
Mhm.
We're sharing a PowerPoint. I can answer questions remotely. No,
Yeah, he doesn't have to be there.
okay. I think it's important to a couple of us that you're on.
Okay, so I'm not.
I appreciate you.
I'm-
Sorry, table.
Yeah, definitely available. for
That's
workshop.
fair.
Clarity in the budget process. It's a big budget and governmental function county is not easy to digest. So I'm just-
If I can offer maybe something in between, but,
I think it's literally like the only thing on general business, guys. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a public hearing.
well, no, but he's not available.
He's gonna be on Zoom.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry,
All right.
Mike, but maybe
Are you
I'll
on
catch it break somewhere else.
I'm actually in the planning meeting. I sit on the state treasury board, so I will be in Leavenworth. Missing in
Prison or Washington?
Depends on how this
That was
passes.
my first.
So Washington, I'm actually on a planning retreat, so I'll be skipping a meeting to be there.
But that'll be at 5
Would,
o'clock at night.
would it be
I will
too,
do happy hour.
okay, all right. Well,
yeah, we'll
I
get him in the
appreciate you. So we will figure this out, but I think it would be, and you're the only item on general, and so
You'll
Well-
go first.
you'll go after.
Which you first.
Yeah. So, okay, thank you for being so agreeable to that. All right.
5:30 to 6.
All good.
Okay. All right. You're out of the hot seat, but also we super appreciate all that you do to keep us in check. So thank you very much, Mr. Riley.
Final invite to see if that date's
Yeah, let me know. I know I do this, can't be true.
The next up, we have Human Resources Manager Charlotte Nelson here to present on updates on Director of Parks and Recreation job description. I know this hasn't been through any committees because we don't have parks on any committees unless it has it. I don't think there's a committee that it could even have gone through.
Committee of the whole.
Committee of the whole, yes. So thank you for joining us, Ms. Nelson. You have some updates for us.
Yeah, I think it was uploaded, the new job description with all your guys' recommendations, so I'm just here to see if you guys are good with it.
Okay.
If I missed anything.
Counselors, have you, Anna?
So, for me, the most important was the ability to successfully get grants and raise funds, because council's been trying for a long time to get $300,000 to $400,000 a year for 3 more operations people for parks, which they desperately need. So that's in here, but it's not sort of made a 5-star thing. Like, you really have to have this. And if that's not here, yeah, I finished making my point and I'm going to stop.
Denise?
Coming from nonprofit, I always try not to fund staff with grants because then you have to, everybody's nervous and, and all of that. I think it's definitely clearly a requirement. I'd almost like to see it convert from that. There are a lot of larger types of, agreements, funds, that type of thing. So just suggestions, more of that. It's a director level perspective, 30,000-foot view, right? And so parks districts, all kinds of things. I really appreciated seeing, I saw the changes that were made. And my thing was the planning, and I see that in here now. So I really appreciate that.
Can I make a small clarifying comment about number 3? A properly structured and motivated staff.
Oh, it might need to say motivated.
Yeah.
Well, what is structured? Ah, okay. I thought instructed.
Counselors, are we okay with this job description to move forward on soliciting
And
bids. Working with it's a consulting firm. We're gonna I call it a headhunter, but I don't know.
Yeah,
what,
I don't know what the right.
yeah,
I
the
don't know,
consulting.
Probably
firm.
not that one, right?
I don't know. What's the right? I probably said the exact wrong word for this.
So, a recruiting. firm
A
is
recruiting
gonna be used. We do a nationwide search. What was that?
I remember we talked about taking out the requirements for.
We did.
Education.
Did you look?
So,
No, it's not.
not in there.
And but
It's
it's
in our packet.
a really good substitute about like interpersonal skills and ability to communicate.
I just wonder, does that mean that we have to do that for all director positions?
No, that was just
No.
a desire in this case.
There's some you
I-
can't,
Yeah.
like engineering. I mean, you
Yeah,
can't.
there's
Yeah.
some like, some of them can't.
Lawyers.
Lawyers, for
Yeah,
instance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Lawyers should go to school.
Thank you.
They have them in prisons now, right?
And apparently $2,200 worth of continuing courses for lawyers, but that's not germane. Anyway, Neil,
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we tried to gather all of and fit it in. I hope we met the requirements of the assignment and move it forward so that we can get to recruiting.
Consent?
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment just for a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. I can't find it again, but there was I think it was you, Denise, who brought it up, that there was a need for like somebody who had a vision for the department. And so I found it when I was looking at it before, and I'm not going to take up everybody's time, but really happy about that. And this is, I at least really appreciate all the work that you've put in on this and staying until 7:15 to finally get this to present.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Okay.
Before we leave it, I just want to ask one thing. I know that it's on consent. You haven't formally approved it until then. Are you comfortable with us going ahead and starting the process to recruit for the position? I don't think that we have to have it actually approved by council to do that.
Can't we just vote now?
No, can't. You have to allow for public comment on a item before it's approved under the OPMA.
Okay.
So, anyway, I just wanted, is everyone okay with us beginning? We've got a fifth Wednesday, and so I'm just trying to get going.
So, yep, move forward on that. Thank you. Okay, that concludes agenda bill briefings. Anna, while we have parks on the mind, would it be all right if you and I flipped our general council business items? Would that be okay? I just wanted to, since we have parks on mind, I was thinking if we talked about the parks department being, okay, thank you. So we've talked in the past about the parks department coming onto a committee. So I want to know, do we want to bring it onto a committee?
I say yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago, we took it off
Right.
public safety.
Should we just add it back onto there?
Well, a comment, because so I absolutely for bringing it back onto public safety.
Okay.
We talked about it a year ago, and the vast majority of the group was happy with it not being on
I
there.
know.
So there's one point on a little bit of, so I'm just make sure we're under. Anyway.
You're absolutely right. We talked about it back
I wanna make
then.
sure there's a little heartburn that hasn't changed. Yeah.
Well, I think that, what are some of the conversations we had back then? Some of that had to do with like, and Director Elevado said he's happy to join any committee, but go right ahead. Let me
I would say that the big thing was they didn't feel they had that much they had to bring to that committee.
Mhm.
There wasn't as much stuff that needed sort of deeper dives or, it was really sort of more black and white. They do get the community side input through the Parks Commission.
Okay.
So they have a little more outreach on that. And so sometimes I think they would just, if it was a money related thing, they would come to
finance.
So it was really came out of mostly probably Director Elevado feeling he didn't.
Right.
It wasn't a good use of his time and things like that.
We actually did away with the committee altogether.
I know.
And so I think some of it felt like it was better served just either coming straight to study session where everyone could address something, or to finance if it was money related. And then we decided to bring it back. And I think a lot of that was because we were going to be dealing with some public safety issues like the camping ordinance, because it was relatively recently we brought it back. And when we brought it back, the thought was that for the most part, it was like some of our stuff is interrelated. So like when we talk about public defense, you know, the court chimes in, the police, you know, and it flows in that a lot of department or in a branch are talking about things that sort of go together. But we would welcome them. We have, I think, probably space in our time.
I just don't feel like it's a good fit.
Yeah,
I get it.
And you know what? Anna had her hand up before I.
That's okay, Denise, go right ahead.
Impetuous.
Well, I just believe that, there was opportunity, there is opportunity to engage the public with the commission. There is not on a committee.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a loss. And I believe that with the right parks director, we'll see that relationship with the commission. At least I think we should wait and see. We've got a new parks director coming in.
I'm solid with that.
Let's make it clear. We expect a good relationship, a strong relationship with the commission. Use the commission.
So let me take one comment from everybody that hasn't spoken. So Anna, Jane, and then Eric's gonna do this thing where he's like, well, you know, this all started. That he's got it's all started when, and then he's gonna give us the history. And then I'm gonna say, I think we should wait. I'm just telling you how we're gonna do it. So I'm gonna wait. I'd like to wait. Denise would like to wait. Anybody else would like to wait for the director to come on?
Nope. No.
Okay. Okay, so Anna and Jane, go right ahead. We'll get the history. You'll get mine, but we already know the temperature is where we're at.
So
Kind of.
okay. Here's the thing. We're rewriting the job description of the parks director. Why not simply put in that it's a requirement that once a month he briefly inform.
We can't.
That he can I just finish? Okay. That he briefly inform the council of what happened with at the planning commission meeting.
At the
Parks Commission meeting. Sorry.
Regular updates.
I don't know that we can put in a job description that they're required. Kylie, is that something that we can do? Put in there that they're required to report out to council on a parks commission? I think that part of, go ahead. Well, Kylie, she's thinking.
So I think that whether you do it or not, at the end of the day, if it doesn't happen, there's nothing you can do about it, right? I mean, see what I'm saying? Like if that person didn't do that particular duty, it's still on the mayor to do something about it. And so overall, the mayor has a requirement it's set out in the charter to keep the council informed on business of the city. And if there's a desire that you get an update on that, it can certainly be expressed to the mayor. And then, he can provide that. I don't know that I on the fly, I can't say absolutely not. You cannot include that. I'm just saying from a practical standpoint, I don't know that it's certainly not something that you could enforce if it didn't happen.
Well, we can't enforce almost anything. We can't get the police. We can't enforce almost anything.
Thank you.
But I think it might be of interest to applicants to know that the council wants to hear what the parks is up to.
So we have already moved past the item for the job description. We can always bring it back up and talk about it again, but I want to just kind of like remind you that we already moved past that and we're on to another topic. So
yes,
I want to just make sure, counselors, is there a general?
Can I talk?
Let me just real quick. Yes, you can talk, of course, but let me just real quick, counselors, is there any desire to go back to change the job description from the prior item? Thumbs up if you want to. Okay, so that we need to move. Yeah, Jane, go right ahead.
Well, I've yet to see any information on a Parks Commission meeting. It's never been forwarded to me, any minutes. We don't know what's going on with them, how much money they need, what are they lacking in, where projects stand. I don't think it's been very well informed. The only thing that I remember getting any real information from was from the Arts Commission, which is under Parks Department purview. And they have been giving us some information. And I don't understand why we don't hear more from them. Or if if they have minutes, they should be forwarded to us. If they don't want to talk to us, at least send us their meeting minutes, because we're not allowed to go to their meetings.
And
Is that true? We can't go to the Parks Commission and Planning Commission?
I was told
Attend them.
that I can't.
Attend the meeting.
So are we allowed to attend planning commission meetings?
Yes,
You told me I couldn't.
you can't interact,
It was,
you can't ask
I told
questions.
you you could, you can't
but there was
comment.
no audio at the last one anyway.
There was audio. It eventually, it got worked out.
Oh, gosh. Oh, so many of us dropped.
I just think, I mean, it's a big department.
So this
There's
is,
a lot going on, and I don't understand why we can't
so you're,
get a monthly update.
so Jane, I want to remind you that you have deferred this item of the Parks Commission to 6/12, and I know you're going to have more information on it on 6/12. Not 6/12 o'clock. You're looking at your watch. It's already 7:28. No, 6/12 meaning June 12th. So I still want you to continue doing your research on that. But the Parks Commission is separate from the idea of adding the Parks Department officially into a council committee to invite them. Eric, it all started when?
Okay, so we used to have Public Safety and Parks Commission. They met on a study session Wednesday, for example, 4 o'clock, and we'd have our study session at 5 o'clock, and we'd cover the same material that we covered at 4 o'clock. And that was just a headbanger.
Mhm.
So when do you have your meetings?
Public safety.
Thursday?
Yes.
First Thursday of the month.
So that's a little bit different scenario. So that was the main reason for dropping it. And at the time, I remember the discussion was, the department heads were good with not doing it. Okay, so having said that, that's the history of it, that my recollection, I'm pretty sure. But, I can see both sides of this, so I really am sitting on the fence on this one. So conceptually, Parks and DCD have their own commission. So it's like, okay, that's why they don't meet with council, right? The other ones meet with council. Okay, so I get that.
Right.
Now we're kind of breaking it and saying, Parks, you meet with your commission and you meet with council. DCD will just leave you alone. Whatever. So,
They're
okay.
next.
So again, this is the administration gets to decide if they want to play in your sandbox. But, I could see why you'd want to have that if you want to have firsthand knowledge about parks and their operations and their challenges without having to comb through minutes. I get that. So I don't see the same need for DCD and their challenges. I mean, they certainly could ask to be on a committee. Parks director could, but we don't have one. They could ask to be on a committee. So I'm sitting on the fence on it. Sorry.
Here's a question. Why aren't there issues percolating up from parks or council or planning?
Who says there's not, though?
Well,
There were what I heard tonight was that there was really nothing being brought from
Can-
parks. And so maybe it's the nature of the beast, that there really wasn't that much business that had to be discussed, or we have, or at certain times, a parks department that maybe isn't as, active or proactive or what, and I'm not making a judgment there. I'm just saying I think that is a question to
So
ask.
I guess one of the arguments would be the Parks Department, like all the other departments, are given a budget. They work with the Parks and Rec Commission, and they discuss business with the Parks and Rec Commission. So why would they go to council unless it's an agenda bill item to buy playground equipment or whatnot, which theoretically it would be better to go to the finance department. So again, that's why we didn't have a meet in the, you can't meet at two different.
Yeah, but
Can I-
status updates on actual park construction.
I want to go ahead and
Even.
just take just kind of like another temperature, because I guess maybe I'm still unsure. Here's the deal, but before I do that, I just want to say we cannot compel a department to come to our committee meetings.
Well aware.
So it's an invitation. And what I've appreciated of being on finance is sometimes there's even public works items that don't come to public works, but they come to finance. And like that, there is the different roles. So if I guess just kind of like a temperature, do we want to pursue this? Okay, yes, Michael.
I think we should just ask the mayor that we have an interest in more information coming out of the Parks Department, and also ask them to put city.council on the distribution for the minutes when they're approved.
Would that be a possibility, Mayor?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so when can we expect that to kind of start for us?
Need a new director first.
You don't have any Parks Commission meetings until there's a director?
Correct.
And is there an interim?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. You're out there directing all the guys on the mowers, huh?
No,
All
I'm
right.
delegating it.
Yeah.
I'm delegating it to your.
And so
Holding
basically, you're holding off on the Parks Commission and the Arts Commission meetings and that?
No, that's somebody who's experienced that I'm putting into that. For the Arts
Okay.
Commission.
And are there any Parks Commission meetings between now and the next 2 to 3 months? Because it might take a couple months to hire a director, hopefully not that long.
Now, we're already starting. You've already given us the go ahead with the job description. So we're going to be moving quickly. Yeah, I need
In the middle of summer.
yeah, before we do a Parks Commission meeting, I would need a director. I need a Parks director to be involved.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your collaboration, Mayor. Yeah.
So the only heartburn I have over that is the BMC, and I understand the lack of staffing. But the BMC says the Parks Commission shall be held at 5:30 PM the fourth Tuesday of each month, unless a change in the scheduled date or time is approved and duly noticed by the commission. So has the commission itself agreed to postpone meetings until there's a new director?
Well, this is my decision to staff, as far as staffing it, but, I don't know. I'd have to get a whatever the BMC.
We can look into it.
Yeah,
We can look
Yeah.
into it.
yeah.
Proper, because they could, I know it's hard to have a meeting without
Well, we would,
staff person,
I would
but
go down there, we'd convene it. We'd all sit there and look at each other. And then I'd adjourn the meeting.
Well-
BMC required.
but it's the chairperson there is a Parks Commission chairperson who should be running the meeting, who should also set an agenda. But we're not, right?
We can look into it.
Okay.
We definitely, we've
I
received,
got heartburn, yeah.
don't get heartburn over it, because the mayor's on record saying he's gonna start sending us the minutes for the planning commission, so we'll look forward to that in the next few months. Can we maybe circle back to this concept after we have a director? Can we circle back to the idea of adding, I still wanna kind of check in on the temperature on that. I want to go right ahead, but yeah.
It's a proposal to defer. Jane's bringing forward an item on the Parks Commission.
Right.
And I'll just take up a short amount of time to say that when I was working at Parks, things would happen in waves. Like suddenly there'd be vandalism at one park. Suddenly people would be hiding sharps inside toilet roll holders.
Yeah.
And that suddenly new types of people would be using parks, new demands being made on parks. And I think that it's helpful for us to know about that. So I hope we can talk about that when it is brought up on June.
I'd like to talk about why Jeff left before July 4th. Elevato. Anyway, no, I don't really want to talk about that, but that's the kind, right? I mean, and those kinds of things are going to happen. And,
It's a goal. I hear you loud and clear about communication. So just know that that's a goal. Kylie will give me my direction on what it takes to satisfy the BMC. So, we'll do what we can.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And whenever,
Thanks, man.
yeah, we would like to definitely know what's going on. We would like to know what's going on with the Parks Commission, and also because we keep up to date with the Planning Commission too. We're very curious about that. We're all intertwined, just the same way that you are here at our meeting. You want to know what we're doing, right? So it would just be a nice way to collaborate.
I could jump in real quick.
Yes, sir.
With maybe a standing update, something monthly, just kind of brainstorming, work within the structure that you already have with study session. And just not to make a decision, but I'm thinking about staff. We staff Parks Commission meeting. We go from 5:30 to sometimes 8:30 at night. We have technical support there. We have a director. We have different staffing. So I'm thinking about using their time.
Right.
I know you're concerned about it also. So rather than having two separate type of committee, a committee and a commission, maybe we can kind of work something out.
Well,
type of communication feedback or something.
Yeah, I think one of the overwhelming things that I'm hearing is that we do want to know what the what the Parks Commission is doing. But also we want to provide support in whatever way we can to you. And so updates would be welcome. Any way that we can support you and be collaborative in that way would be much appreciated. Even maybe something, I know sometimes you have reports of the mayor's report, but I don't know, maybe every couple of months, some kind of update would be. But when we have a director though, y'all, they'll be giving us updates by coming here and asking us for things. So that's also an opportunity to, yeah. Jeff, you want to have
Just to add, the Parks Commission BMC also states a duty to report to council. So,
and it's in the BMC. Okay. So you and Jane are on that. You're going to come back on 6/12 and talk about that item. Again, I'd like to move kind of away from that and go back to the item at hand, which is, are we good to put this item off until 6/12 and talk about it again, or until a director comes?
We're talking about the Parks Commission item.
We're not talking.
No, we're talking about them coming to a meeting.
We're talking, nope.
The council.
Yeah,
committee?
yes, the council committee, Parks Department being included to collaborate with a committee.
No,
No what?
I think all the arguments against having Parks be on a committee have been good, so I'm voting no.
Okay. I think it would be nice to ask the new director what they want to do and just
question, park items and village directors hired, you're still got to come through finance, public works, or the appropriate.
Of course. If it's over the certain fiscal note, right? And if it's right. Okay. I think we're going to move past this and looking forward to meeting our new director one day and seeing the mayor on a riding lawnmower somewhere out there, maybe too. I don't know. It's like, you never know. All right. Okay. I'm going to move past this and move back to number 1, C1, which is Audit Committee Chair Anna Mockler presenting Audit Committee Report on action steps.
Okay. So, hey, can I just ask, do we have the action steps? You assigned them all to committees. Have you sent that out and I've just missed it?
I haven't sent them out. I gave it to staff. So if you.
Should I ask? Okay, so I'm just saying I would like to have it.
Okay.
But for now, these are the 2 things that were assigned to the audit committee and they were both completed. I'm going to start with the second one, the landlord license and compliance review, because it's simpler. If you look at Auditor Sims's memo, she had some pretty rigorous standards, and she found about 1,800 residential properties in the city with characteristics of a rental property, like, you know, it's like 123 Smith Street A, 123 Smith Street B. Or the owner doesn't, you know, has a different mailing address from the property owners. And it's not like a post office box. Yeah. And her suggestion was that DCD send out a very courteous letter saying, you know, I don't have this language at my fingers' ends, but, you know, it's come to our attention that you may be renting a property. I don't know how this language goes. And here's the procedure for getting a license, which is required in the city of Bremerton. And just start out, you know, not the stick, you know, just like, hey, here's this. And that's really the entirety of the proposal. The database here is anonymized, right? It doesn't have addresses or names because, you know, and the auditor would present that information in a confidential way to whomever it ought to go. Eric, am I missing anything?
No, but I have something to add on as far as action steps on what should be done about this. Go ahead.
Every property should be licensed. And we talked about this in audit. Instead of like one landlord having like paying $75 a year for 50 properties. Anyhow, yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Okay, so reading the report, if you've read it, I assume you have.
I have.
I find it quite frustrating. If I recall correctly, there's about 1,500 landlord licenses, and we have a potential population of over half that don't have landlord licenses. So we all pay income taxes. I hope we all do. That business model of the IRS is voluntary compliance, and that is they can't possibly audit everyone and make sure they pay their taxes. But the threat of being audited and paying penalties and interest is what keeps a lot of people honest to file their taxes. Now, there'd be people that would file taxes regardless because that's the law. But if you don't have the possibility of being audited and being found out, it's higher likelihood that you won't file your taxes, period. It seems to me that this is a situation that we've had going on in the city of Bremerton forever.
11 years.
Because, right, the ordinance was passed in 2013, required landlord registration, including a self-certification that the property that they are renting is in compliance with the Landlord Tenant Act in the state of Washington. There's a checklist, very basic. Common things that anyone renting a piece of property should be entitled to. They're given their hard-earned money to rent a place. Basic living conditions. We have potentially half the landlords in the city don't fill out the form, aren't registered, and we've all walked around the city and seen plenty of properties that you're going, how the heck does that thing get licensed? And how does someone live in that place? This is very frustrating. The BMC at the time we passed it, if you look at the rates, it's failure to comply, failure to register, subject to a $1,000 fine, up to $100 a day, continuing non-compliance. I will bet $10 that fine has never been applied to anybody in the city of Bremerton. Does anybody want to take me up on it?
Nope. Aren't you glad you're here, Garrett?
Right.
In 12 years, you can take my $10. I'm happy to wage that. And I know the mayor's listening. I don't know what he's thinking about me right now. Doesn't matter. I speak the truth. Well, that's his problem. He can listen to the tape.
That's right.
This is something that I hope the kids have. Sun picks up an article on. This is something that the administration needs to address.
Kai is
the minimum thing of sending out a letter, not accusing someone of being a landlord, because there's situations. I have more than one property and I can't live in one house, more than one house at a But at least put them on notice. So then if it's found out that you are renting, I mean, first of all, I don't think you need to have knowledge. The ordinance is what it is, and you're subject to it. And I'm not saying hit someone with $1,000 fine if they didn't know about it, but I'm saying you don't even have to prove that they had to know about the law. At least put them on notice. And if they still don't do it and you find out it's a rental, hit them with the $1,000 fine. What about all these good landlords, quote unquote, good landlords, and I believe the majority of them are, that provide decent housing, that are following the rules for the last 12 years, forking over their $75, certifying, making sure their units are in good repair. What about them when they find out, oh, I didn't have to do it because the city doesn't check anyways? No, 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 no. Okay, off the soapbox. Thank you.
But what are you proposing with the soapbox?
What is recommended? Send out the
Enforcement?
letter. Do some enforcement of this.
I wish that Kylie and the mayor were in.
Well,
Nice.
here it's there.
Assuming that, this is something that our director
Auditor?
to discuss, that's what I thought about this information forward, was that mistake?
Yeah, it was Jenny, it was the auditor, yeah. Yeah.
So I would be surprised if the director wasn't aware of this, or if she isn't, that the auditor would be bringing that to her. I will be sure to brief her if she is unaware. Something to consider. We'll work at the direction of administration. This could lead to a much heavier workload for code enforcement and building department. This could lead to evictions potentially. So all of that being said, this is something we can work through with the auditor, the director, and the city attorney on how to proceed. We're happy to listen to council and take that feedback.
Where does the money go to now? At $75 a year that, what, 1,300 landlords are paying?
750? Or
I
there's
assume-
1,500 licenses.
So I assume it goes to general fund. It's under rates and fees, but I'm not positive.
Because,
You're correct.
Okay, so
well, the thing is, the $75, especially for somebody who owns a multifamily building, isn't nearly enough for code enforcement to go and inspect that, right? So it made no sense at the time, and it still doesn't make sense to me why one landlord can own 50 units and pay the same amount as a mom and pop landlord who own maybe a duplex, right? So
You're saying that the fee should be commensurate with,
how many units?
yeah.
Or at least like, 75 for one unit, and then when you have 5 units, I mean, if the whole idea is for code enforcement to be able to knock on somebody's door and say, hey, we don't think this house actually meets, we need to inspect it. And then it takes us years, once there is a major code enforcement problem, to evict somebody or, to solve the problem. I mean, there's neighbors who have been waiting a long time. So why do we have this ordinance if the money's just going into general fund and it's not being enforced? Is it doing anything? Then the people who are living in substandard housing, a lot of them are afraid to report their landlord because now they're going to get thrown out and they can't afford something better. So
To that end, I am curious because some code enforcement could lead to evictions.
Yep.
Okay. So that's something I'm concerned about as well. I am very concerned about people losing their homes, even if sometimes it's substandard and that needs to go. Anna's been in a couple of those places, right? Yeah. But sometimes it's a different kind of situation and the housing may not be substandard. And so, I mean, and I want to follow the law. I'm not saying that I don't want to follow the law. I also want to exercise humanity. And so that's where I hear Garrett's point is that could lead to evictions. I mean, this is something that I think about whenever we sign off with these abatements and so on.
You know, Marwan is on the audit committee, and I'm sorry, I'll be real brief.
Okay.
And this has been something he's been pushing for, this landlord license compliance right along. He's been bringing us stories of women, a woman who's like living in a room in a basement with a bucket for her sanitary facilities. He really wants basic habitability for human beings.
I get that, but when I was living in a basement with rats and I had basic facilities, I needed that housing. Okay, it was substandard, but it was something that I needed and I didn't have anywhere else to go. And so to imagine being kicked out with my kiddos out of the only place that I could afford is something that I keep close to my heart. So I'm going to get off of my emotional soapbox now. Eric had his hand up. Let's give him his.
Well, I want to
All
respond
the gentlemen have their hands.
to Garrett's statement. Director Spencer is aware of the report. The report was shared with her, her comments, and Director Spencer's comments are in the report. So she's well aware of that. I assume the mayor has also seen the report. If not, I encourage him to read it. The point about, okay, I need to wind back in history here. So I wrote this ordinance in 2013 with Roger Lubavitch, our city attorney at the time. And there had been prior attempts before me under Nick Wofford to come up with a landlord registration, including actual inspections. This is a political thing for reasons mentioned. There's also a lobbyist group for rental property owners. And in 2013, we got the majority of the council to agree with what we have in the ordinance now, and that's why it is the way it is. It could be more aggressive. If you look at the city of Tacoma and other cities, they have mandatory inspections. And if the administration says, well, we can't do that, well, then there's a roster. You can have it so they're inspected by this roster of certified inspectors by the city to do the inspection. I'm not proposing that today, but there are things that we looked at, and this was consensus. Okay, this is a start. But the fact that we have probably half our population, possibly, of landlords not even registering their properties is something that we can't let go on. The argument about, I don't want to hear the eviction thing. I don't want to hear it. We can put things in the ordinance that says if you get evicted from an illegal home or a home that is certified that this is meets the requirements, well, guess what? If they ever want to rent that place out again, we can hit them with what it costs to displace that tenant. There's all kinds of things that we can do. Substandard housing in the city of Bremerton should not be allowed, period. And I understand there's going to be a short-term pain point or whatnot, supposedly, but we can't let it continue on. You just can't. I over the years, I've talked to people in the fire department, and I've asked about, why can't you put this on this form, saying that these are horrible conditions, and was this place a rental property? Not, oh, we use this standard form, so we can't check the box. We can't do that. I am so tired of this. If we come across substandard housing, it should be reported to code enforcement, and we should take action, including to see if it's a registered place and go from there. We got to stop looking the other way if that's what we're doing.
So here's what I want to summarize here. So it sounds like you're proposing some policy. And so do you have a collaborator for the policy proposal? Because if you have 3, you can work with legal to create that policy. So I just want to know who to collaborate.
We need another policy though.
Yeah.
If you have,
I'm not proposing a policy. That's Eric who's doing.
Well,
I'm just proposing sending out these letters.
One of the things that we could look at as far as the policy is that we could bring up the perceived inequity. If I have 1 unit, I pay $75. If someone has 100 units, they pay $75. That's an issue. So that's something the council could address. But the other issue is really for the administration to tell the council what they're going to do. And if the administration is silent on on this issue and not doing anything other than what they said they're doing in a report, which obviously is ineffective because of what's in the report, then the council, first of all, let's give the mayor an opportunity to answer that, and then I'll come up with an answer if there is no answer.
I think he was gone for half the conversation.
Yeah, that's fine.
I read the report. Director read, I think she had some pretty detailed, feedback on it. It's, at this point, it's gonna be resources to get to the vision that there should be no houses that are substandard in the city of Bremerton. And so, it's, there was some flaw, we believe there was some flaws in how a potential rental property is identified in this report. So, but that's okay. It's just, what you're talking about is potentially a, more of a proactive look at, the databases and drilling in, making direct contact outreach, and then potentially setting up an inspection program to identify a substandard. We're talking, and then potential policies, where's the money going to come from, and all of that. That's going to be up. You can discuss that. But it's resources. This is resource heavy.
We don't currently.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Denise. Well, gentlemen, Michael's been so patient. I'm sorry, Michael. Go right ahead.
So, first of all, to me, for code enforcement, this is another tool in their toolbox. They've got a rental apartment, or rental units, building, apartment, house, whatever, that there's an issue with. They should immediately be giving in this BMC to get it in line. And, back to what Eric was saying, no one is saying that immediately we have to go and get all these places compliant. It's the IRS model, right? So I think, Anna's gone. But so she doesn't need to hear this anyways. Anna's, I think, right.
We'll play her the recording later.
She wouldn't believe you now anyways. That let's just get a letter out. It's going to hit some people who are now homeowners, and they can disregard the letter. It's going to get some people, and although it needs to go to the registered property owner, it doesn't need to go to the tenant. Although that's a whole other problem. But even so we'll get some folks starting to comply naturally. That's not as resource heavy. It's just processing the $75 fee.
1,500 letters.
Well, okay. The letters, I'll help with.
Some of them are going to come back, return to sender. That's not a big, huge mailer, actually. 1,500 to a targeted list based on a parcel.
But it's this like,
listing.
how do you eat an elephant, right? As maybe we grow the program and then actually see the resources that we don't have. But the problem is, instead of, we just sort of established that we felt it was resource heavy at the get-go and just didn't take any action, where we could have just done the minimum. We could have done some, we could have done a little bit until we ran up to it. It could come in fits and spurts as other projects come and go. But again, I think code enforcement, that's another tool they have to get somebody in line. Oh, and also, did you know that you're not registered and there's $1,000 fine? I'm not here to enforce that right now, but please know that it's, it could.
So
We probably need an update on code enforcement. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah, well, let's get an update on code enforcement soon.
Right now, we're
probably in
over
July.
1,000 interactions now a year. So this is thanks to the council, and I asked you to approve resurrecting a code enforcement program. And this means not waiting around till somebody tells on their neighbor or whatever. This is us going out and proactively looking around the city for obvious code violations, around what you can see from the outside on the street, vegetation, house, and all of that. We're over 1,000 a year. So we stay busy, and some of them are complex. Some of them require 1, 2, 3 contacts. Those are door hangers. Some of them end up in court.
So we set a goal to do 2 rental properties a month. It'll be better than what we've done.
Okay,
Get a plan.
so I think administration's hearing us loud and clear on an idea for code enforcement and also in the whole vein of dividing the orange, right? Remember that? The dividing the orange, mutually beneficial. I'll bring out the zester again if you want. I mean, there's some solutions that are offered that are not as resource heavy. What I do want to, I mean, we're past the time, but I also haven't really been trying to keep close time on these items, even though it says 10 minutes. That was, just a suggestion as we move forward. But I do want to see if there's any interest in amending the code. Because I've heard Eric mention it, to amend the code to $75 per property. Jeff.
Yeah, I wanted to echo a couple things, and I had a comment on that too. I first want to echo what Eric started with, that I do think this is shocking that potentially half of properties are unlicensed for landlords, and that it hasn't been enforced. And I do know, when there's an unlicensed business that opens, now it's obviously a lot more readily apparent than put a sign on a main street, but DCD enforces that's happened. That happens a lot. Or rentals, not a lot, but yeah. So there is an enforcement program for unlicensed businesses. I'm a little shocked we haven't been doing it for landlords. So I think that needs to change, and I think it can be rolled out in a thoughtful, responsible manner that really doesn't just try and slap everybody right away, but is education, proactive, and everything everybody said. Do it smartly. But going to the point of the $75 per unit per tenant, my only thing is that until we're ensuring that people are compliant, we'd be raising the price of the landlord license on people who are currently complying. So we're now funding the program from the people who are doing the right thing and complying, and not from the people who aren't. So I'd almost want to see the compliance start before we change that fee structure.
I'm curious how many, I talked about short-term rentals before. There are companies like companies that own short-term rentals. And I'm sure that with the property management companies, they might have, it's not just all individuals, right? There are, Goldbergs out there and so on. Different people out there that own massive amounts of properties. And do other jurisdictions have a per property fee, or is it a
Per unit.
Yeah.
The word is per unit, not property.
And I think it would promote more, I almost said more better, but it would promote better landlordship in a sense.
Taxi license in the city.
Ooh.
Half of those.
I should know because I got one a while back when I was Lyft driving, but there was a couple different ones. There was a state one and there was a city. And the city was actually cheaper than the state.
But part of that was about getting into somebody else's car to do business. We've got people who are making money off of these places. They need to comply. They need to. It's been on the books for years.
So I appreciate your point, Jeff, about that would just be hitting people who are compliant right now. Does anybody else? I want to just make sure. Are we on and then Denise? Just specifically regarding the per property, the per unit license.
I think Jeff makes a good point, and I have another point when you have time.
Yeah, mine isn't related.
Okay, so we're Eric, go right ahead about specifically that item.
I'm willing to hold off. I've been holding off for 12 years.
You're only got a year left.
So whatever. And there's conceptual between units versus parcels.
Right.
So
multiplexes.
The main thing is whatever avenue, if the council decided to go that direction, I'd want to make sure that it's not viewed as a money grab. I'll give you an example. The red light cameras, we've dedicated the funding subsequently via ordinance to pay for streets. if we have the landlord, if we revisit the landlord license, I would want all the proceeds from that license, including the current $75, to go to DCD for code enforcement. And then I would be okay with looking at an ordinance that increases or make it more equitable, the fees for landlord licenses. Because right now you could argue, there's all kinds of arguments, like everything that we ever discuss, there's pros and cons. And one of the cons you're gonna hear from landlords saying, I'm just gonna pass this on to my renter. It's a tax.
Yes.
And I get that. But the flip side is, again, you got probably half the people that aren't paying at all.
$6.25 a month.
Yeah, so I get it. I'm willing
That's not how it would be
to hold
charged.
off, but if we don't get any traction, and I agree again with Michael, is like, just do some, and then the word will get out. Once we get a few people to say, if I want to say without using an expletive, to heck with you, Bremerton, I'm not doing it. Then we hit them with $1,000 fine, and the $100 a day goes to hearing examiner, whatever the process is. Then the community will find out, oh wait, the city of Bremerton means business. I better go get my landlord license. But we haven't reached that yet. And Derek's going to give me all the numbers and all the license, all the fines that have been filed since that ordinance was written in 2013. And he's going to prove me wrong. But until then, I'm going to make the statement that we don't enforce this ordinance.
I'd be curious to find out even, I mean, and not that it's a data point that we can use in our decision necessarily, but how many are landlords that live not even, like you said, in Washington State, so many don't even live, at least not in Bremerton.
That's in here.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, folks,
Real quick,
this was
Just, I hear your concern about evictions, and Jane, I hear your concern too. I guess my point is that we've all watched City of Bremerton, like, really not push evicting people or abating nuisances, right? It's like we give them chance after chance after chance. If somebody's been trying to, like, remove a Hulk vehicle, for example, at a hearing I went to, they'd been getting notices for literally years. And they said, well, I'm having knee surgery. And it's like, okay, well, let's try again in 3 months. So I don't think that City of Bremerton is going to be like, out into the snow.
It's not the city of Bremerton. And I'm not trying to defend gummy landlords. But if somebody reports their landlord because the place is wretched that they're living in, the landlord is going to evict them, not the city of Bremerton.
That's why independent regular inspection.
Well, what I hear you saying, Jane, and what I agree with, and I do think we need to move past this, because I do think we are in a holding pattern. But what I hear Jane saying is something that I've lived, which is I don't want to complain to the landlord about anything because I'm afraid that my rent is going to increase if I request repairs, that I'm going to lose my housing because there are substandard things. Maybe there's a water issue, there's a leak, in one case I had literally no kitchen, right? And I had nowhere else to go. I'm serious. There were no resource. I had already gotten rental assistance once. You can get it once during the year. I had already gotten rental assistance for the prior place that I was in, and I wasn't eligible for the rest of the year. And so, anyway,
I like it though.
Yep, let's do it. Okay.
Wow. Lisa's had her hand up for a little while.
So it sounds like a lot of people want to move forward. Does anybody?
I have a couple of things to say.
Okay.
What you're describing is abhorrent, and I don't want to do anything that's going to continue to enable that. Any living space in the city of Bremerton should be empty. And by continuing to not enforce things, sure that they are, we're enabling that system. So I'm ashamed to be a part of a city that allows that to go on. The other thing, and I'm glad I'm last, when are we going to start paying attention to the auditor's reports? LTAC, I came in 2019, many people weren't even aware that there had been an audit of LTAC, let alone did the council ever consider seriously, I think, its recommendations. I think we have an auditor, or we should just get rid of the auditor. I mean, we pay a lot of money. I think it's a great service. I think we should pay very serious attention, and we want to debate what the auditor's findings are. Maybe we should need a new audit. I don't know, but I take that seriously, and I want to move forward on it. And the threat of eviction is real until we clean them up. I don't want to keep enabling this ugly landlord situation because of fear.
Mayor has his hand up.
I don't disagree.
We're gonna go ahead and move on, Mayor. We're gonna move on. Apologies, and I do want to move on from this. It's general consensus of council. So we're gonna move on to the next item, which is Jane Orbolowski.
Auditor memo.
Auditor memo. Oh, audit. Parcel review, auditor memo. Do you have a second action item that you're bringing up?
Yes, you skipped to the second one, remember, because we were already talking about.
So you have an additional action step that you're reporting on now. Okay.
The auditor memo and license. I thought.
Thank you. Apologies.
It would be simple.
No.
I know.
Okay. Okay.
Later, I'm going to tell you about Christmas. It's really your parents who put them under the tree. This one is one where oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
City-owned parcels.
City-owned parcels.
Just Jennifer's reaction.
Yes.
I'm shocked. So this is city-owned parcels. It's been.
Do that. Okay.
Okay.
City-owned parcels.
You know, there's children under 5 listening to this.
Gosh.
I force Max Block to recouncil. Remember Snoopy sales on New Year's Day? See this dollar bill? Go there to your parents' room and get out a bunch of these and send them to the Snoopy sales.
Okay. I'm sorry.
All right. So the auditor, did a really full tilt boogie. I'm sorry, an extremely thorough review of city-owned parcels. And she came up with 296, 297. I always forget. This was back last October, right? We all got that memo.
Mm-hmm.
And she sent them to the directors of different departments, and Public Works did not want, for example, we have lakefront on Tahuya Lake. They wanted that for a DNR swap, and there were other things that they excluded. DCD had things that they excluded. The revenue generating parking lots downtown were excluded. So if you look, the non-controversial Schedule 1, this seems to be, so I would say like the 3 acres near Public Works, 100 Oyster Bay Avenue North facility, that we should just keep moving past that one. Out of those 17.
Didn't Public Works say they wanted that property for future?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, they're putting a shed on.
Yeah.
Move right past it.
Yeah.
So that's the simplest proposal, and perhaps one best suited to 8:15 at night, which is for us to look at these parcels. There are a few people that we might work with to find out how to build affordable housing on those parcels. One is the team of BHA, KCR, St. Vincent de Paul, Mental Health. Another is actually my constituent, Jake Carter, who is at the Housing Forum, who is the Habitat for Humanity building director. But I am really bringing this to you to say, this has been our goal for quite a while now is to sell surplus city-owned parcels. These are there seems to be no controversy about these in general, that we could think, actually get them developed for actually affordable housing, perhaps for the demographic that needs it the most, single young men.
Not a lot of land.
There's,
You don't need a lot to,
I know, but
there's not a lot of land.
zero lot left.
So another way to look at this is to move on to the next one, Schedule 2. These are things that where the apparent, if I remember correctly, because it was last September that we met, but these are things where the department directors weren't completely like, no, you can't do this. This is possible. So here's like a whole bunch more acreage. Some of it is, for example, the land that Denise wants to develop into a park where the old engineering buildings are on Olympus. But I
oh,
don't.
that's not my plan.
Oh, that's Public Works is doing it.
Park-like features.
Park-like features, that's right.
Park-like feature. It has
everywhere.
It's a food product. So I don't really know how to go about doing this. This is not something my past has led me to, like, how to develop a property. Does the city wish to become a landlord? How do we move through here? But I'm following on from what Denise has told me almost 2 years ago now, which is the gift of the land that is our contribution. The charter gives us the right to sell, buy, and I think vacate land, but certainly to sell or to buy land. So this is something that we could do and help the people who need homes. That's it. That's my presentation. Eric, you got anything to add?
I think we're not going to come to a conclusion on which parcels are best for development. Yeah. So I think we provide the administration with another copy, obviously it's right here, of this report, and ask the administration, can you identify some parcels that are suitable for development for affordable housing? I would think the administration's goals are in line with the city council's goals. I bet you it's in there about affordable housing, and see what he wants to do. See what his proposal is.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Jeff has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna add in, I like that, and I also like the idea of sending this list to the folks you mentioned, and any other organizations that might develop housing, affordable housing, and ask them specifically to maybe come forth if they have a particular property and project in mind, because I think that's the way to move forward. Is for those organizations to say, oh yes, this parcel on your tier 1 list, we could build this property. Here's our proposal for it, and then we can evaluate that as a city and say that would be a great use.
I mean, just really briefly, and then Jane, how much do we rent what is the cost? Is it at the Naval Museum?
$1 a year.
Right. So Jane.
So are you saying this list has already been vetted by all the departments?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm shocked.
There are 3 lists here.
The first one.
Are we on 1 or
Yeah.
2? Right.
Number 1, yep.
This is number 1.
That's number 1. Okay. Number 2. Are you saying that was vetted?
It's second tier.
So that means they haven't vetted, or they have?
Well, it's other sites that were considered with Public Works comment. So the Public Works comments are drainage facility, not for surplus, right? Do not surplus, consolidate lots, possible surplus might not be buildable due to grades and setbacks. You see that whole column? like, TK is obviously Tom.
So underutilized property. What I don't want to happen is, for like Habitat for Humanity or some other group like that, get this list of possible properties. Hard to say. Go out, look at them, say, yes, we want this, and then Public Works come back and like, no, it may be underutilized now, like the old engineering office and saw garage or whatever you want to call it now. It's a nice chunk of land, but do they really, if they're saying it's underutilized, does that mean they're willing to give it up?
Are you looking at the column that says engineer comments?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see anything that
underutilized.
says underutilized.
Do you,
Oh,
I do.
in a second here.
do you want any comments from administration or anything at this point? I know I totally shut them down on the last one, but we had to move forward from that item, but,
Look at the
On Olympus.
3,000 block of Olympus Drive.
so let me go ahead, while y'all are perusing the list, does
This is in
administration,
the tier 2?
Yeah.
excuse me, I'm gonna ask
Sorry.
administration if they want to comment on this.
Yeah, we do share the goal, and so, and the list is valuable. But we were, as soon as I can get some of these, work items off our plate, get DEI manager hired, finally getting it freed up, get our parks director, we got our job descriptions and other things cleared up. We have discussed picking some properties and developing a process that's, where, okay, this parcel, you know, what define affordable housing, what does the city, you know, get in return for a development? You know, 20%, 50%, 90% affordable, what's the cost and scale the cost? And just kind of working through that and then marketing it where we just go out as if we are, you know, we hire a broker to market the properties. And so then we get out of independent private deals with different agencies, organizations, that we just go out to the world. And then we send out notifications to folks to let them know we're doing this. We still have to develop this program. It's, you know, and it's just to make sure that's transparent. It's, we have an idea up front, what we want to do. We put it out there. And again, I'm trying to free up staff because it's a good goal. Just trying to free up staff to get this done.
To answer your question, Jane, that underutilized comment, that's from the auditor.
Okay.
Michael,
So, I don't feel like now is the time to go through the list and
Yeah.
pick our
No.
best candidate.
right,
I will say that Kylie just showed me an MSRC article from this year, using surplus public property to create new affordable housing. So, I probably could get Kylie to send that link, out.
It's just January.
But I guess I want to know is like, it's getting a little late. Even
Getting a
though the
little
sun's still
late.
shining, it doesn't seem like it's late. But like, what are we trying to figure out? Why are we talking about this? What are we trying to get to? What's the value in talking about this tonight? And
Eric,
because I feel a little,
So the value is the auditor was tasked with 2 action items and our audit chair brought it up.
so we are
But-
checking the
but-
box for our goals, right?
I've read the.
Right, but let's do something. That's
Right.
the other thing that was made is
But
like.
we're not gonna do it tonight.
No,
We're gonna-
but let me throw on
Okay.
a concept. Let's kind of maybe just think outside the box, not solve it. So we have this long list. And if there's a whole bunch of properties that really aren't good for like multifamily or whatever, there's nothing, I don't believe, that precludes the city from selling those properties, using those funds and buying a more suitable property.
Right.
Which, by the way, is progressive revenue generating.
So that's just, all I'm saying is we got a long list of properties and it's like the city should not just be sitting on properties it's never gonna use. Get them out on the public roll, have them pay taxes, but in the meantime, maybe sell those, like I just said, and then use it for affordable housing and build something. You know, win-win situation. Think outside the box. That's all. And then maybe this is another one of those things like the rental housing administration can give us an answer by the end of, you pick a date, end of whatever, 3 months from now, mayor What have you done to address this? I understand you have some immediate needs you gotta fill right now. I'm not asking for an answer in 2 weeks from now. But is 3 months from now reasonable? And just give me where you're at on these 2 audit reports and addressing these issues, and we move on.
Okay, I will follow up and ask for a report out if y'all are good with that. 3 months from now on the auditor's list. And we'll talk about, we'll be kind of curious, obviously, administration's listening. We'll be curious about surplus land. We'll also be curious about enforcement of landlord license. And so report out in 3 months. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So,
Labor Day.
I mean, not exactly on Labor Day, but
Always.
definitely by at least the end of the first biennial budget.
It will be your present under the first.
All right. So next up is Jane Revelowski, the Public Works Committee Chair, here to provide a summary of the highlights. Please, the highlights, anything that's not been covered on today's agenda.
Talk too much?
No, I'm saying we already know all the things from all of this stuff. So give us some.
Okay.
Yeah.
So quiet, and I'll tell you.
Yes, ma'am.
Central Bremerton Force Main, they're coming to us with a contract for, a detailed design, and we're hoping maybe pop up something. Sixth Street active transportation project, there wasn't really much update. Washington Avenue load zone bike parking, basically.
Big conversation.
City's not gonna do anything, different than they're doing now, which is just enforcement during commuter hours. And that's,
Not knocked down to 5-minute loading?
nope. We're gonna be hearing from Dave Powell about a lot of, his sewer projects. He's got a lot going on, decommission the beach sewer, Tracyton Beach sewer, East Side Treatment Plant, UV replacement, the chip seal scope, and I questioned this. I think it was like 500,000 or 430. I don't have my notes right in front of me. And I told them that I thought that was going to be delayed because we weren't sure about funding for the Warren Avenue Bridge for the design. So then they gave us a quasi report on how they think they're gonna fund the design of the Warren Avenue Bridge if the Climate Commitment Act doesn't.
Is a repeal.
Yes, isn't repealed. So anyway, it's a pretty limited chip seal, mostly on the east side.
Yeah.
Quincy Square, moving forward, let's see. She's coming in June she's got a couple of contract upgrades. They went a little bit over budget on one thing and under budget on something else, so it works out the same. The really exciting thing that I think you're all gonna be interested in.
It's the interior coating replacement at Reservoir 17.
So yeah, there's that.
Gil Davis is doing a little dance of joy.
Oh, boy.
We're talking about the tip.
No, I'm talking about the Public Works tour that they're gonna give us.
yeah.
Ooh, I loved that one when I went.
So,
15.
Okay.
yes, August 15th, so clear your calendar. It's gonna be an all-day event starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. They are gonna take us to the dam, my favorite place in the world. We're gonna see part of the rebuilt 5,000 road. We're gonna see a portion of what will be the JDK trail, the Farstead Park to Kitsap Lake Trail. We're gonna go see the UV treatment. Where else were we going?
It's all in the email that they sent us today.
I assume the sewage treatment center.
Yes.
Yeah.
You get to actually go in the room where the poop is
Lunch, during lunch.
incinerated.
How come I didn't get it?
They did.
No S word.
Might have come from the City Council, because that's often.
Oh, yeah,
Anything on Snyder Avenue speed bumps?
nothing. Nope, nothing there.
Well, I'm
They
gonna,
they have the action item to come back and do updated, traffic policy plan.
That's very.
So- you're putting off the good for the perfect.
Yeah, the tip
You made that.
well, I made the JDK trail get on the tip. So they did do, a brief presentation on the tip, which has to be adopted before July 1st, which means our last meeting in June, and it's gonna have to be public hearing.
Last meeting in June is June 12th.
No, it's June 26th.
26th.
Right, but that's a study session.
It's a study session. Yeah.
So I'll bring that up at the end, but go ahead and get through your reports.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know, it's okay.
So they showed us their tier 1, 2, and 3. So tier 1 is funded. Tier 2 is partially funded. Tier 3 is something we all want, but doesn't have any money attached to it yet. But then there's tier 4. So they wanted another couple staff meetings to go over it, to finalize what they think we want. And then we're gonna get the chance to, the Public Works Committee are gonna get the chance to see that refined list and give them our feedback on what we would like to see to maybe drop to tier 4 or move up to 3 or everything.
And all the sub-area projects are gonna be identified.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they identified a lot of the joint compatibility study projects which are all on tier 4 or yes, and connectors. So that's the one thing. The Warren Avenue, Mr. Weber found a new grant that he said we're probably have a pretty good chance at getting. And it could mean another $2 million for the Warren Avenue Bridge. I asked him if that would have paid the difference between
And they went,
5 and 8 on one side, and they said, yes, please don't make us do that. But they did say that they would gladly take public input on the public's ideas for connectors. So hopefully, but
and cool railing.
well, I could care less.
I know.
So is that pretty close to the end of the report? I know there's so much going on in Public Works. I don't want to
There's a lot
rush it,
going
It
on.
really is.
but,
Yep, that's enough. They'll all be coming to visit every meeting until
I
the
know.
end of time.
And then next year, will
It's
council
exciting.
will actually weigh in on priorities, how to priorities.
I love
That's
that.
that tip. I mean,
Next
this is
year.
a big deal.
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Well done,
Big
Jane.
deal.
Thank you, Jane.
Well, and the whole.
Yes. Okay. Any other regional or committee boards that you'd like to report out on? Anna?
I'm not reporting on the lunch.
Yeah, don't talk about it.
Okay, so let's do 5 minute, try to do 5 minute per
Okay, I
committees.
sent out an email hoping to get all the information to you guys so that I could be 2 minutes. here.
Ooh,
But did
Okay.
anybody receive this? I sent it.
yes,
Okay. Anybody else receive it?
we got it today. They all got it today. Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Or
So
yesterday.
the big takeaway here is circulator bus, mayor talking to executive director Clausen, both county commissioners on board, mayor, you're still on board, right? With the circulator bus?
We got it in priority list.
Okay.
Boom.
I obviously am a big fan. So it seems, knock on wood, that we might well have a majority, and the mayor pulled out of his hat the fact that in the long range plan, the only city in Kitsap County that has a circulator bus is Bremerton. So anybody wants to, yeah, so I showed them the map. Michael synopsized it really well last night. It's basically first Friday pilot project back and forth between downtown and Callow. And it's, other mayors thought it was like a special event thing. They were like, So that's where it is right now. If anybody wants to jump up and down with a little bit of glee, feel free.
All right. That's it. You did so good. All right. And Jeff,
That's the memo.
thank you. I'm so glad that got.
Is the question on that was the idea, get it running and it can be reevaluated if different routes, different stops are needed.
Well,
Just,
if
yeah.
you read all the way to the end of the memo,
Was it too long?
it is really long. It's a long series of emails, but this is not a special event thing. It's a pilot project for a circulator bus. If you go out and talk to constituents or neighbors and go, how about a circulator bus between these two places? And people go, oh, I want one for mine. I want one for here. The goal here is to educate people that like getting on the bus is like really okay. The little access buses would be fun and nimble, and you wouldn't feel like you were a million miles from the driver. People on Marine Drive and Madrona really want a little one for First Friday.
Eric?
So that's it. That's the whole point, is to have it be a pilot project to see if circulator buses is something we want to fund with the Transportation Benefit District increase on tabs.
Eric.
I have a question on that.
Eric's been,
Okay, so
Eric-y.
Thank you. Sorry to holler.
believe it or
It
not.
gets to be that shrill voice time of night, y'all. I'll try to stop.
I used to ride a bus, so, from, the Gateway Center to the ferry terminal, catch the ferry, so, if you're gonna have a little circulator and the bus is gonna go to less than 30 minutes an hour, and you want to attract, and I'm not saying special events, but if you guys thought about, it would be more fun and more enticing to have a bus like a trolley or something. Kind of, I'm not saying, I know this is pie in the sky, but you know what I'm saying? Kind of like
There's a
San
double-decker
Francisco.
red bus, electric
It
bus.
would be cool. I would be interested in my family. Hey, let's go run the trolley, go from Charleston to Brent versus a bus. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be stuck up. That's why I started with saying I used to ride
an electric.
Jane,
It would be more fun.
this next.
I wanted some clarification that no other city has.
Jane,
Anna, you said that no other city has circulator bus?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
Bainbridge
okay.
has it.
I know.
And
They
as
have,
Director Clausen explained, they gave $100,000 towards that.
when,
The city.
every year?
No, just to get it started in marketing.
Okay, 100,000 for that one.
Uh-huh.
That's a pretty big route. Okay. Well then, does Paulsboro have
Oh,
one?
I'm sorry. It's the only one that's in the long range plan. Right,
Okay.
like what the long range plan calls for.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That was what the mayor said, and I just believe. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a dream for a long time.
Their business community got together, Winslow and all of that. They kind of targeted, I mean, you know, they had to work through that.
But that's the service that they've had for quite some time, which is one chunk of money
So-
thrown it.
Isn't that crazy?
No, I think it's a great idea that,
Could use LTAC money.
I don't know how much.
Just to differentiate it, this is our local bus, you know, versus bus.
Well, then we're gonna have a
Michael had a plan for ferry lights.
party car. Where we have the artists.
Not like Las Vegas where you're pedaling, drinking. Well, okay, I'll do that. I'm good.
Well, see, that's why we want to.
That should not be legal. That really shouldn't.
Michael was saying, let's trick it out with lights and artwork and,
Yeah.
make it a pretty thing.
All right.
They're gonna give us a bus that nobody else is gonna use.
Can we get into good of the order?
They're gonna do that.
Okay.
Oh, now.
Yeah, now, little late for that.
What? I
All right.
need a break, at least 2 hours.
Okay. We've got to move along, but this is super exciting news. Besides, okay, Jeff, do you have other council? Do you have a,
Who cares to see me since the last one?
Right.
For less than years. Yeah.
so beyond the topic of the schedule, Are there any other good of the order, general business items to bring up? Denise?
We were, before we passed the money for the Bremerton Housing Authority to take on the low barrier shelter in that collaborative, we were meeting with them, you know, a few of us were meeting with them casually, I guess. And things seemed to go really well. And I think there's a lot of ambiguity out in the community right now. The Sun's doing a little bit of coverage about what's going on, but not enough. People aren't really hearing about it from us, you know, anymore. My conversations, I don't know about others because we don't really talk about it anymore. My conversations are that they've switched gears and are looking at much smaller properties, which will have a much smaller population. I know, be careful what you wish for, Denise. I know, I remember you saying that, Eric. And I'm really not saying I'm concerned. I'm saying, I think we're out of time. You know, I think things are moving, and I'm beginning, just as an executive with experience over that kind of thing, I'd like to know how things are going on more regularly. And I don't know, GCD only plays one role with that as far as a permit and all of that. I'm just wondering if we need some kind of an ad hoc, a temporary committee that meets with that collaborative regularly and reports back to council, whether we have things are happening so fast. Decisions are being made, like moving from a large site with, you know, security, with services, with all that, to a smaller site with 30 to 40. I've got lots of questions. Is there going to be 24-hour security? Is the same infrastructure going to be provided at multiple smaller sites? I don't know in this role what would be appropriate. I just felt like I needed to let you know of my concern regarding how the project is going, and are we in the loop? Or are we going to get told 6 months from now, 8 months from now, we've only got 30 or 40 beds planned, and we're going, wait, there was 70 at a minimum that we needed. I'm feeling the need for that, and I call them, right? I can call them individually. They're friends and colleagues, and okay, but I don't feel comfortable. I think council just needs to pay more attention. I don't know if that's appropriate.
Are you
because we kind of just, you know, we did our part.
I call them too.
So Denise, what are you proposing?
Well, if it's appropriate, I would, Garrett.
We do let or emergency shelter anywhere where a hotel is allowed to stay, so they could get that going at any point.
Quality
permitting. Right now, we're doing some zoning. BHA applied for zoning code amendment to extend our temporary encampment code.
Right.
Process.
To include pallet houses? No, as far as length of time.
Right. They seem to be, pallet houses seem to be in their plan. That would be considered like an indoor shelter, which could be like pallet houses, or would be considered an outdoor temporary camping permit.
Right.
Whereas an indoor emergency shelter could be permanent.
Right.
So pallet shelters don't meet the International Building Code for all building standards, and that's why they're considered temporary. Can I explain that well enough?
My concern is, are we going to meet the deadline with the capacity?
Invite them to council for an update.
Well, we can invite them, but none of them get paid.
Pardon me?
Jill gets paid.
Wait, I'm listening to Garrett. Wait.
As soon as we get a site or a permit, we can help advise them on the next steps.
Good. I think we need to go to them. They're all have other real jobs. And they're doing this as a volunteer effort. So
When did they,
Well, they're not really doing it as a volunteer. It's part of their job.
so they meet, and how I believe they work collaboratively is just kind of emailing, talking on the phone. I don't believe that they actually,
They are meeting every Friday now.
And they
Okay.
also have a monthly meeting,
then,
a wider group.
so I think you were hoping to propose an ad hoc of some sort.
I didn't know what was appropriate.
And so I don't know if, I don't know that an ad hoc
Let's
is
just reach out to
inappropriate.
them and ask them for an update. It could be an email.
I think it would be good.
Okay.
I understand about feeling out of touch, and we want to hold them accountable because we do have a fiduciary responsibility for some of the
Yeah.
funding that we're supplying.
Each of them have their own roles. and
We
their
were
own
promised certain
agencies.
things.
And I do have to make the point, just out of transparency, you know, two of them, if not more, got huge awards from the state and are very busy with brand new projects. You know, Joe is kicking off a how many $1 million capital campaign? You know, Jill is opening up the youth, which is fabulous, but I know as an executive that starts
The new
taking
stuff is always
your
more exciting.
time. And I feel the need to remind them all the time, we've got a deadline and we need at least 70 beds.
Okay.
We could see if one of them would come to next, like, finance committee meeting or something like that.
I would love that if they can come to a committee
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
That'd be
The
great.
finance committee meeting seems appropriate.
that's
So-
until June.
True.
The end of June.
That's,
Well, but we have to.
well, they'll be on notice that they're coming, and if there's something that's changed, then it would be nice to have an explanation, and maybe we'll understand. Anna, go right ahead. Girl Scouts honor or Scouts honor?
This is brownie honor.
It is brownie honor, and that's Girl Scout.
I just wanted to say that I'm too tired. I had things for good of the order, but I'm too tired anymore. But just saying that, like, I think it's really valuable and it brings us together every time we have good of the order. That it's just increases our ability to work well together.
Did that have to do with, I'm sorry, that was was your item closed?
So are we gonna invite him?
Yeah.
to Finance? Okay, great.
Okay.
I'm good.
Who wants to invite who's on finance?
I'll do it.
Okay. Mike Riley is not gonna do it. Michael is volunteering to reach out to somebody to invite for an update.
I'm doing it.
Okay. All right, so the schedule, I'm gonna go ahead and close with this. Let's talk about it. Oh, we have an exam session after this. This is not, are you serious?
Kidding me.
What do you,
But let's go ahead and cancel them.
Okay. Yep. All right. So I heard the joke about that. Denise, don't think it fell on deaf ears.
My apologies.
So this is a proposed, so we said we'd look at the agenda. So I'm presenting you an agenda that closes us for a holiday. So I'm presenting that to you because we don't generally have meetings on Thursdays. And so I got alternatives from the department heads on ways that we can use study sessions to our advantage. Something that I know is of concern is the tip. And this was what Director Nucky said was a possibility. What I like about this is that I have it arranged for the Wednesday 26th to be actually on the chamber floor for study session. And it would allow people to walk up and actually sit at the table with us during the public hearing. What I don't like is that I think it might be longer meetings. However, it does give the full holiday off, and there might be staff members who are not planning on being around. So I'm just presenting it to you, and let's discuss.
This is the latest agenda calendar.
This was, here, I'll pass this around. And so basically what it does, and let me just summarize it for you. The Quincy Square items and the contract award for interior coating replacement are action items to approve. Now, those are items that I didn't hear a lot of issues about. I don't think that there's going to be many issues we still need to, talk about them, but We would do a study session on them. We would take public comment, and then we would take action on those items. Then we would get a presentation on the tip. So we would get our first briefing on it. Wednesday, June 19th is Juneteenth. So that way, that automatically defers us to June 20th to reschedule a meeting for. Most other holidays, we cancel meetings. If it's, like January, if it's New Year's or Christmas, and it falls on a Wednesday, the meeting gets canceled the next day. So that's the protocol that I'm just proposing this under. Then June 26th, we come back, and we do have briefings on agenda bills, but we also have, it says resolution to adopt the tip. And so public comment would be allowed right there on the floor, downstairs at the table with us. What I liked about that is it's alternative to how we don't normally get to sit with people and take public comment. So anyway, there you go. There's the briefing.
So it would be a special meeting and a study session kind of combo. Yeah, we've done that before. I think we did it last June.
So are we voting on this, or is this?
I'm just listening to y'all. This isn't something we vote on.
I think it's kind of confusing for people when they think it's a study session and all of a sudden it's a public hearing and we're taking action.
Public hearing on the tip?
The tip is.
So what we've done before, when we've had items come up that have to be passed, and we, you notice it as a special meeting, so it's out of your regular cycle. And so you provide a notice that it's not typical. It's not just buried in the agenda. You say it's a special meeting, and so that it gets noticed that way. And we kind of broke it up where we finished. I think we did the special meeting first. Then I know. But I think what we did before is that we did the special meeting type stuff first, and then voted, and then we kind of went into the study session type presentation.
We had several meetings last year where we had action items last year, and
in previous years.
It used to be that we did a lot of stuff at study session, kind of like that. It would just sort of get added on. It became more a need to demarcate it, I think, more with the change in the OPMA, I think in 2022 or 2021, where public comment has to be allowed prior to the council taking action. And so now we have to make sure that we allow that, and we don't need to do it as part of a study session.
So this is not unusual. It's been done before. It's not like I'm presenting something that's not been happened before. Yeah, go ahead, Denise.
It's totally personal on my part. I'm really aware of that. Or some of our meetings don't have any general business on them. Now we're canceling a meeting. I know it's a holiday and it's an important holiday. I'm just I'm feeling kind of lazy. I'm feeling kind of like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a whole week off without a council meeting, and we're going to lump it in these study sessions. And I am a little concerned about public perception, but it's totally personal for me. So I'm good with what everybody else thinks. It's just like, wow, we've had a lot of time off,
5 meetings with no general business.
Well,
This
that's
year?
part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
We
That's-
put it,
I know it's not
on consent.
connected.
Yeah.
I know it's not connected, and yet perception is connected. Public perception is connected, and I just feel that way. So, but I'll go, as I said, I'll go along. If you all think we can handle that business in a study session, we can get out of there before 11 o'clock at night, and people show up, they'll know, and all of that. If we can be assured that, then I'm fine with it, Just seems so easy. Oh, well, let's just cancel the meeting.
Well, that is not the intent here. It's just to have and
I'll be back in 3 minutes.
Okay. She'll be back in 3 minutes, but anybody else want to comment on this agenda? Any other feedback on it? because I want to be collaborative, and I totally understand what you're saying. It's not just an effort to cancel a meeting so I get a week off. It's confusing to me to have a meeting on a Thursday. That would be confusing to people too. So Jeff, go right ahead.
I think all valid points. So just checking on what is we're taking. So it's just the tip and the CDBG. Just want to make sure what were the items that we would take action on.
Here you go. This is it. Well, I mean, if there's an emergency, we're gonna fit it in. But
So June 5th, we have so far in general business is the biennial budget. And that's it. And then plus the same as I got here. Is CDBG on here?
CDBG will be coming back on the 5th. Let me take a look.
Oh, that's on I'm sorry, that is in the 5th.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only hearing. So I mean, I really value the points about getting public feedback. To be honest, CDBG, I don't think we've gotten maybe past 2 years I can remember. It's not a hot button issue, to be honest. And folks can
But the tip maybe.
Right.
tip a little more, yeah. I feel like the folks who are most interested in that are aware of it.
Yeah.
To be honest. And we will, yeah, and doing a special meeting notice, we can maybe highlight that so that it maybe brings even more attention to it than it would if at a general meeting. So I'm not, at this moment, I'm not concerned about canceling it just because these two items are not. If it was something bigger, I'd have more heartburn, but I think, I don't know, I like
Okay.
Either way, it's a special meeting. June 20th or June 26th is a special meeting, either way. 6 1, half dozen the other.
I just really love the idea of actually sitting down on the floor with people coming up to do public comment. I think that's what really got me kind of excited about the change. This is an opportunity to do something a little bit different.
They know.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
seems like
yeah.
we can do a lot of social marketing.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your trust with this schedule. And well, both of y'all are coming back with tans, by the way. So I love that for you. So I understand though.
Don't make me feel bad about a fifth Wednesday. I stayed until the bitter end and I'm leaving tomorrow.
That's right. So with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Wait, let me read my script. What was that? That's right. I'm not going to adjourn the meeting. Let me read the script.
Actually, you do. You adjourn and then go to executive.
Okay. Due to the council's regular schedule, no meetings are held on fifth Wednesdays, including next Wednesday, May 29th. The next council meeting will be held Wednesday, June 5th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. in the first floor meeting chambers of the Norm Dick Government Building, Government Center. And the public is invited to attend in person or remotely, and any special accommodations to speak via Zoom during public recognition may be requested through the city clerk by calling 360-473-5323 at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Immediately following adjournment of the study session, an exempt closed session will be held as allowed under RCW 42.30.140 (4) to discuss labor negotiations or proceedings, and no actions anticipated. So this meeting is adjourned.